Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 28 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth gaming discussion podcast. I'm your host as always, Brad Ellis, and joining me this week is Dustin Furman, my boy. What's going on, Dustin?
Hello, Brad. I feel like it's been a while since I've talked to you. We talk all the time on Discord, but
a show.
On a show, it's been a while. I've been all right. I got a minor injury on 4th of July jumping through a fountain. So I've been jumping through the fountains for like 8 years now. Never had anything bite me, and then this year got a little burn. But other than that, I'm just fine. Hanging out, getting ready. We officially packed our baby bags last night for the hospital.
Exciting.
So we're in the zone where it's like this week the percent is like under 5, and then next week it's 10%, and then it just goes up. So it's like, gotta be ready. So, but yeah,
this could be your last podcast for a while. Anytime now. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows?
Just whenever little Herman Furman decides to come out.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Anytime.
And also joining us, special guest, John, Mr. Spawnwave himself. How you doing, John?
It's good to be here. I'm noticing, I don't know if it's just me. I'm looking at the bar here for my audio, and it's just a straight line. Is that normal for me? Like, 'cause it's supposed to be kicking
the waves,
right?
That happens sometimes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I wasn't about to go through a whole thing, and then we get to the other side. It's like, he didn't say anything the whole time. Okay, good. Guys, making sure.
No, you're good. It might be a little blurry too. That's just because it's prioritizing the recording. But
that's fine. Yeah. That's fine. I just want to make sure we're good. Okay, good. No, it's good to be here. I met up with Dustin at Too Many Games, which was a great time. Said, hey, I'm out there. Let me know. And here I am, like a week later.
Go ahead, Dustin.
I was just gonna say, it was funny. We have a mutual friend, Justin from Eon Gaming, and so Justin invited me and my boys over. He was like, "Hey, come! I got some beers. Come to my hotel," and that's where I met John and Mystic, and it was great. Just because we've always been in each other's orbit for so long. In fact, John, I want to tell you, I was looking at our YouTube analytics. And your channel is in the top 3, like, viewers also watch this channel is you.
Oh, okay.
So we apparently have a huge crossover audience. And so I was like, man, I told Brad, I'm like, let's get John on this. And then eventually we could have Mystic too. And yeah, I think it's awesome. Glad we could finally touch base.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's that gaming discussion, news, current event stuff. I think it all kind of just runs in a big circle on YouTube when it's not, when it's more, I guess I'll say thought-provoking. I see a lot of like basic stuff on Twitter where people are playing characters more than anything. So
that's true. Yeah. What is Too Many Games exactly? As someone who doesn't really know, like myself, is it just a retro show?
It's a retro show. I've been going to Too Many Games since 2011, I think. I think it was 2011. I actually went there as a vendor for the longest time, actually, which is funny. And I started doing YouTube, and I find out that the agency that I work with actually runs Too Many Games. So I end up there as like a guest and as like a panelist and that sort of thing. But it started out mostly as just a marketplace, and then they grew into this whole entertainment side too, where they have like people come out, voice actors or people on YouTube or Twitch or wherever. And they have panels, signings, meetups, that kind of thing. And then it grew into, we're going to have a massive arcade. And it sort of became just a celebration of, I guess, just gaming in general, because it was a retro convention. Now it's like just gaming, and then also tabletop and cards. There's a whole section for that. There's a wrestling show that they do 2 days a week. Yeah, they do cosplay wrestling, and it's like amateur wrestling, but they're near Philadelphia. And for people who don't know, Philadelphia is like a big wrestling town or city. They have like, if you just look up wrestling schools near me, it's like 8 of them populate in Philadelphia. So you can, if you're in Philadelphia, you can go learn to wrestle for like $1,500 or something. They'll teach you. But they do all of that. And it's just a lot of fun. They just bring people together, and it's a good time. So overpriced for a lot of the stuff, yes, but Wait till Sunday to buy and offer lower amounts, and usually they'll be like, okay, there's wiggle room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cash is king in that situation too.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, John, I need to apologize to you. Well, I guess really apologize to your audience because our meet and greet was right after yours. And when we pulled up, probably about 10 minutes before ours was supposed to start, I was like, oh, he's got a lot of people here. If they need more time, we won't need it. And then I think that I went and like walked over far away. And then when I walked back in, no one was there. No one in the room was there. I was like, oh, they must have got through these people. That's amazing. And then I was watching your video, and also when I talked to you, you were out in the parking lot, and they kicked you guys out for us. And we had nowhere near as many people, and I was like, oh shit, they definitely could have used our time. And in fact, it probably wasn't really necessary for our meet and greet, but yeah, that's wild. You guys are out in the heat, dude. That was what, Saturday, which was pretty
Saturday
damn
at like
hot.
5 something, and RGT was just like, no child left behind. Everyone had to go in the parking lot and like an hour and a half, I think, out there. So it was an hour inside, and then it was like an hour and a half outside. I mostly felt bad for the people there because I'm already there all 3 days. There's a hotel room I can go to if I need to go shower or something for being out there. Some of these people were there. Saturday's their only day, and they're outside in the parking lot for an hour waiting. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. But everyone was really cool and polite, and it was a good time. It was fun. It's fun to put a face to the screen name because they'll come up and tell you who they are online half the time, and it's fun. But for people out there who read the comments on YouTube or Twitter or wherever, and they're like, everyone's mean, you just go to one of these events and meet people, and they're all normal people, like the people that actually come out to it, not the people who are trolling you online. It's a different world. So
yeah. Dustin, you picked up the Game Boy Micro. Anything else notable there that you got?
it's a good pickup.
So yeah, I got the Game Boy Micro, which I just got Mario Golf for the other day at my local game store, which the other thing, I have so many things to tell John. I was there, I was talking about Too Many Games with the store owner, and this guy was like, yeah, I wanted to go out to Too Many Games because I wanted to see Spawncast. I was like, oh, nice. That's cool. So that was funny. Small world.
You picked up Mario Golf. Interesting.
I did pick up Mario Golf.
When you went into it, did you know that it's just a big RPG?
I couldn't remember if it was tennis or golf because I have tennis and I popped that in and I was like, oh, this is the one that's an RPG. And then so I was like, maybe golf is too. And lo and behold, it is actually formatted very similar.
Yep.
Mario Golf. But yeah, this is the guy. It's Camelot. So they made Golden Sun, right?
They did. And then they were like, hey, let's make a golf game and then make it an RPG. And let's do the same thing with tennis. And it was awesome. And then they kind of took a step back after those are like the best ones. And the Game Boy Color one, very similar for tennis specifically. I actually played that a lot, and it's just a big RPG. So Camelot, they were onto something back then.
Yeah, it feels weird. Like I haven't played either Golden Sun game. I have them both. I've heard so many good things. It's clear they were really onto something as makers of RPGs, and now they're just kind of, they've even removed that element from the Mario sports games that they make. So
it's kind of sad. Yeah.
Seems like a missed opportunity. But
Golden Sun's cool though. If you never played those are some good games. I remember on the Game Boy Advance, that's the game that I got. I think I borrowed it from a friend, and it made the Game Boy Advance to me on the level of the PS1 back then, where I looked at it and I was like, this is like a portable PlayStation right now.
Yeah. I have both of them. I've picked them both up, and I just haven't gotten to them yet, but I really, really want to. And then some other stuff, like I got, I guess it would be Dragon Warrior 7 on PS1.
Oh, the PS1 version, nice.
Got that one, got a good deal on that. I got Fear Effect on PS1 since, they're doing that the porting of it. I think Limited Run is doing that, so I thought I'll check that out. And I got a bootleg Mother 3 cartridge. Yeah, I got one of those because
all the time.
I had a ROM loaded up because it's really my wife Holly that wants to play it, and so I had her started on an emulator. And this was 100% my fault that she saved in game, but for some reason this emulator didn't do that. It only did save states, so she lost like 2 hours of progress. And I was like, well, I'm just gonna pick up the cartridge, and then when she wants to play it, it'll just behave like a normal game. And it was like $20, which you can get them on AliExpress for cheaper, but I'm like, I'm here. I'm just going to get it. So nice.
That was
little
like one of our
bootleg.
most popular items back in the day.
Oh, yeah?
Not to tell on myself. I mean, that was a long time ago, but we'd order them by like 20 or 30 at a time on AliExpress, like you're saying, and you
Mhm.
could get them with the box, the whole, and it was like 200% markup. That person probably got it pretty cheap, but it was so easy to sell at that point because it's kind of that impulse buy. It's right here. I don't have to wait weeks to get it in from China or something. But cool game if you haven't played it. But that was an easy sell every time with Mother 3.
So, John, you said about you were vending. Were you just running like an online store or just vending at conventions? Like, this is a whole part of you I didn't even know about.
Oh no, there was a time period for me where we had like multiple stores we were running, and I was actually in charge. I was the tech side of it, but I would also come out and help. Like if somebody came up to the register and I was in the back working and no one else was like there, I'd come up and help them. But I would also travel for the show because I just liked going to it, and we would have like 2 or 3 tables. And at that time, I think it was like $150 a table. Now it's 3 times that. So you kind of see how much larger the show has grown technically. I think this year they were aiming for like 20,000 people to come through. And Saturday, it felt like it was that. Saturday was crazy. But yeah, I did that for a while, like up until I did YouTube. So it was probably 2009 to 2017. I think I did that. So about 8 years. But that's where I worked on Xbox 360s, PlayStation 3s, 3D, everything. I worked on all the different systems and thousands of them probably. So that's where a lot of that experience came from. But yeah, we would just pack up a huge truck, drive up there, just throw stuff on tables, and they would sell constantly. It was a very lucrative weekend every time at Too Many Games. But we would do things like that. AliExpress was a great place to find things to sell there. So if people are interested in reselling at a place like a Too Many Games or convention, AliExpress could be your entire supplier probably.
Yeah.
Nice. Sounds cool. I'm just starting to get into retro collecting a little more. And I was talking to Dustin about it. He's been my kind of guide through the retro scene because I don't know a lot about it, but seems awesome. Seems dangerous to go there, though, if you're a collector. It's probably really easy to spend money there.
It is. They have an ATM right there.
Oh, my goodness.
They have a room in the back for us to go to if you're a guest there. I don't know if you went. Did you go back there, Dustin, in the room?
I have never. I think I asked once about a guest room, but the person didn't know. In fact,
man.
I don't like as far as Too Many Games, the organization. I talked to the person on email that organized us. She's great, but when I get there, I kind of just get my badge and then I don't talk to anybody until the panel. So I don't know. I mean, it's no slight against Too Many Games. I don't. They've been great to us, honestly, for sure. But yeah, I had no idea there even was a guest room. I need to take advantage.
Hey, next year, there you go. I'll show it to you. But it's a room in the back. They just stock food, drinks, and they have an ATM back there, like just private ATM basically. And and it's right. So people were just going in and out, just getting money constantly. It's very easy basically to get money and then walk 10 feet and spend all of it. So.
Brad, one of the coolest things about Too Many Games, or really any retro gaming convention, but Too Many Games in particular, is like the super actually rare stuff that you'll see. I saw someone had a Donkey Kong Country standee from release. And it was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was expensive, but it was cheaper than I thought it would be. I think it was like $800. I was like, I'm not going to go spend $800 on a display, but I was like, I'm surprised that's not more. There's some others. There was like someone had like a jacket for the Super Mario Brothers movie, like production crew, like the old movie, the live action one. That was a couple thousand. So
yeah,
there's I always like it from the museum aspect. Like, I just want to see it. I don't need to buy it.
Did you see the neon PlayStation 2 sign from like where they had those in stores at like old retro, like old stores when the PS2 was out? Yeah. They had like the big blue neon sign that they had hung up, and I think that was like $900. But yeah, stuff like that. It sounds cool, and then you see the price, and you're like, yeah, it was pretty cool, and then you just move on. So.
I don't know if it's that cool.
But Justin's right. It's cool to see the stuff in person. I'm like, it's kind of neat.
Yeah, damn, it sounds awesome. Yeah, maybe I'll try to head out there next year or something, because visit you, Dustin, with the baby.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a big, I don't know, not a long drive, but you could always come here. We'll road trip out. It's about 5 hours. Hang out. Okay. So it's not close for me, but like I said, if you want to come to the Pittsburgh Retro Gaming Convention, that is close. Much smaller, but still a good time.
Okay. We'll think about it. That's
people
October,
usually
right?
People usually fly into Philly and then take like a 20-minute Uber out to the convention. The convention center is like in the middle of a bunch of hotels, so like you could stay at a casino and it's 3 or 4 miles away. You could stay at the Hilton or the Hampton or the casino. Yeah, the casino's nice. So
yeah, the casino
too.
It's nice. We were there. We gambled a little bit. We saw a lady passed out on the floor. They brought in the paramedics. There was like this very like dystopian moment where we were at the bar and they were carrying this lady out on a stretcher and there were like people dancing like with drinks in the foreground. I'm like, well, this is a good time. So
that's awesome.
So yeah, stay at the casino for something like that.
Okay. All right. Boys, let's get to some little warm-up questions from the audience.
Sure.
This is from Mike Person. First of all, John, I apologize. Our audience is very filthy, so you're going to hear a lot of disgusting stuff.
I'm on a podcast with RGT. They can't really.
Okay, fair enough.
His pants fell down one time when he stood up, so we're fine. We're fine.
Dustin, since you're on this episode, they've just gotten a little more heinous.
Good
on the Slitter front.
Bring it on.
All right, greetings and Slittertations. As a 36-year-old Thrice fan, I must say, Delusion of Safety is by far their best album, Dustin. I know you're a young gunner, and I'm glad you're a fan, but there is no denying the facts. That is all. First time, but love you long time. Peace and love, my homies. What do you think about that, Dustin?
Well, okay. Here's the thing. I may be younger than this man by 6 years, but I remember my parents playing the first Thrice album before Illusion of Safety. So I may be young gone, but I've been there since the beginning. Illusion of Safety, it's a good choice. It's not my choice, though. My choice, it's much later with Beggars.
Oh, interesting.
Beggars is my favorite. Yep.
So I am with Mike here. Illusion of Safety is by far my favorite record of theirs. Love that shit.
And that one has Deadbolt on it, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's like their much more heavy era. But
yeah.
I don't know. There's like so many eras of Thrice now. It's hard to even keep them.
I know. I don't know any of those later eras that you like.
You're fucking up.
Beggars, I don't really know.
Listen to Beggars.
I fell off after the Index albums, like the Alchemy ones.
Yeah.
Those like the last ones I kind of heard. But yeah, Thrice, local band for me. They're from my town. Like the singer Dustin played at my high school one time during a lunch break, I remember.
That's awesome.
I was there. It was pretty sick. Yeah. Because this band, they were called Samus, actually. Some of my brother's friends that I knew growing up too. And one of them, the guitar player in that band, his teacher was the guitar player from Thrice. So they all knew each other. So Dustin was there watching. Then they all pressured him to sing a song during lunch. So he did. I think it was Trust, maybe, Dustin? It might have been that.
About right. That would work.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. All right. This is from the Obituary of Cain. Hey, Summoners. Got a warm question for you. You find yourself in some fucked up monkey's paw gone wrong situation. You have to pick just one of the console manufacturers to stay in existence. The others not only cease to exist, but have never existed. That means all their exclusive games over the years are gone. Who would you pick? Keep it up on the fine entertainment. Who we killing, boys? Who's living?
Wow. The hard part is picking one because it'd be easy to kill Xbox.
True.
Oh, that's going to get clipped. Yeah, it'd be easy to kill Xbox. The harder part, if we're talking just consoles, let's say PC is not part of this conversation. So we have to pick between keeping PlayStation or keeping Nintendo. I feel like the gut reaction to me is to keep Nintendo.
I would keep Nintendo.
Because of the legacy, the dedication to the craft. PlayStation sucks because I probably played more on PlayStation, but from a legacy perspective, it's got to be Nintendo.
What about you, John?
I'd probably agree with that. I wouldn't write off Xbox as fast though, because I do like Halo quite a bit. I spent a lot of time in Halo, like a lot of time, and it was a lot of back in the day. It was a lot of like original Halo, which is just actually sitting next to people and playing the game. It seems like a lost art now. But that was a thing back then. And, carrying the big CRTs up the street and stuff. So I have a lot of fond memories of that. But that's just like one game that I'm thinking of. Whereas with Nintendo, There's obviously a ton of them, Zelda, Mario, and so on. So yeah, I'd probably say Nintendo as well. But I mean, Sony did quite a bit when they came up. So technology wise, I will say definitely. I know people will still kind of look at some of their IPs and say that what people say they're very similar, but I think there is a narrative experience that they brought to the table with that too. But Nintendo, I think for the legacy, back to the 80s even, it's hard. It's hard to get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly. I would pick Nintendo because they kind of got us out of the gaming crash of Atari and everything like that. So I don't even know if gaming would. It's hard. It's a dramatic statement to say even around without Nintendo, because I'm sure someone would have filled that hole. But they are super important, I guess, getting video games back on track, and they're still very relevant today. But yeah, I think I'd keep them.
Yeah, I think the thing
Sega
with Xbox.
Yeah, they're already kind of dead though.
Thing with Xbox, I was thinking like, okay, if we keep one around, what's the future look like with just one console? And it's like, Xbox is the one that I would be least optimistic about the future.
Well, I think you'd also, if you got rid of Nintendo, you'd most likely get rid of Pokemon as well.
Yeah.
And that's not, people don't even think of that with just necessarily gaming. That's the biggest IP in the world.
Pop culture.
Absolutely destroy that.
Yeah, and if we keep Nintendo, then we're stuck with last gen graphics forever, and bad frame rates. So
damn, it'd probably be
this
worse.
Is the monkey's paw situation.
You know what's interesting about that? All right, so with Nintendo, if we believe that they were the only company to ever exist, because we blink everyone else out of existence, up until the GameCube, really after the GameCube, they moved away from the idea of having, we'll say, impressive systems in terms of technology packed in. But they went away from that because the PS2 and the Xbox sucked up that market. If they weren't there and it was just the GameCube and that sold 80 million, maybe they wouldn't have pivoted to the Wii, and we would be talking about their system now similar to like a PS5 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. People forget that, I mean, GameCube was more powerful than PS2, right? Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly. Yep. Yeah.
It can do some things that the Xbox can't do as well. Like there were certain things like fill rates and stuff that if you look at Resident Evil 4, when that came out, people were like, okay, this system's pretty impressive, like just outright. So it had a lot of 60 FPS games even from Nintendo on it. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. Man, could have had like the GameCube 3 or something in an alternate universe.
It could have. Although who knows, maybe they would have never gone away from cartridges though. So
Ooh.
Oh,
they did go back. I mean, they were ready to go back, switch to cartridge. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, the technology just keeps going. So that'd be interesting. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen what would have happened there, but
yeah. All right, let's talk about some video games we've been playing. John, I've been playing this as well. Whoops. Beyond Good and Evil. You've been playing. The 20th anniversary just came out of that game. I've been playing that version. Are you playing that one as well?
The one that came out, yeah. I got it on Xbox. I was playing it there. I like to try to play something on each system if I can.
Sure.
So I'm playing Elden Ring on the PS5. I'm playing Beyond Good and Evil on the Xbox, and I'm playing on the Switch. I'm playing a Pokemon trading card game. Yeah, so there you go. But that's just something I've been playing for a long time now. I've like way too much time in that game for what it is.
Oh yeah, those are the kind of games you can play for so long easily.
Yeah. But for Beyond Good and Evil, it was funny. Dustin messaged me about the games I was playing, and I looked, and I'm like, I've just been playing Elden Ring. I should play something else too. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do Beyond Good and Evil. I'll do that when I have the code. I'm gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. So I put a couple of hours into it. I went through like the first cave dungeon area they have.
Yeah, the dungeon thing. Mm-hmm.
And then outside of that, I was kind of just puttering around in my hover boat craft thing, looking around at stuff. And this is a game that definitely gives off the vibes of like that early 2000 time period for PS2 and Xbox and GameCube. The character models, it's right before we figured out how to make everything look shiny and like everything's just gone through a rainstorm. Like, so the characters are all flat looking with that sort of art style. Reminds me a bit of, I think back to like Maximo from the PS2 days, like that kind of character model. But it definitely shows its age at times when you're going through. I half the time forget I'm supposed to take pictures of everything. I don't know if that's second nature to like you've played Beyond Good and Evil before, I assume.
No, this is my first time playing it.
Okay, so the first time I played it was, I feel like the year it came out or a year after. I played it on something called Game Tap on PC.
Oh, I remember Game Tap. Wasn't that like streaming? Or was it like on live?
Yeah, it kind of was. I think it was also just delivery, I think, of games. So it was sort of like that digital subscription service before digital subscription services.
Right.
It wasn't around for very long. I remember that was a game they put on there, and I played it there. I feel like I may have beaten it. This feels like this is like 20 years ago.
That was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking, you know what? Beyond Good and Evil 2 is going to come out before 2030.
Someday.
So I'll be ready to go then. And then they said that this is going to have a link to Beyond Good and Evil 2 at the end. Like, it's going to have a mission that links it to it. So that's when I was like, okay, there's new content here. I'm going to play through it and see what I think of it. So you're going through and you have to take pictures of like everything. And the idea is the camera will even tell you hints about what you're supposed to do. But it is, I'll say navigation discovery is still early days, because you'll look at something, it doesn't look like you should be able to interact with it. And then you'll walk up to it and press A, and you'll all of a sudden do something crazy. Like she'll like sidle up like Spider-Man style up a couple pieces of like wood and then grab a gear and turn it, and all of a sudden a door opens. So at least for that, it's been, I don't say a struggle, but it's definitely been like felt a bit old in that regard. The combat is
not good.
Kind of there.
It's not
like,
good.
Is there a lock on?
I don't think
lock
so.
Enemies? No. Okay.
It seems to be like an auto lock on.
Okay. Yeah, so
like
you kind of
soft lock or something.
Staff around, or you can hold and charge it up, and the pig will occasionally help you. And sometimes he just gets attacked, which you can also do team damage to him. So I'll be swinging around, and I'll hit him, and he'll get mad, and you'll actually knock his life down. But at least for sort of the world itself, I'm interested. The characters are very different. Like they feel very unique. And every time you take a picture, you build up what looks like, it's bad that I say this because we see it so much. It looks like a battle pass you're building up.
It does, yeah.
And you're taking pictures and it's filling it up. And all of a sudden you get a download and you get a digital zoom. So they're like pushing over their updates to my camera and stuff. It's an interesting experience. How far did you play into it?
I think I'm like 5.5, 6 hours in.
The game's like apparently 10 hours, 12 hours long.
Yeah, I think it's like 8 or 10 hours, so it's not too long. But yeah, like John's saying, platformer from that, or I don't even think it's really a platform at all. Like, you barely do any of that in that game. I guess it's like a platform without a lot of jumping. That's how I would describe it. It's like more so climbing and stuff like that. But it is like in this interesting sci-fi universe, I would say. Like, there's a bunch of weird animals walk, like rhinos running a shop to upgrade your hoverboat and all that kind of stuff. And there's shark men just chilling, gambling and all that stuff. Like a bunch of weird animals just hanging out, which is cool. I'm down with flying cars and all that kind of stuff. Dustin, I'm curious though, quickly before I get more into it, have you played this at all?
Yeah, I played it not when it came out, but when it was the PS2 GameCube era. I bought it used from GameStop. I probably played it for 3 to 6 hours, we'll say, when I was a kid.
Okay.
And it broke. There was some kind of scratch on the disc. And so I couldn't keep playing. Like, it just infinitely loaded when I would go to the next area. I took it back to GameStop and they were willing to give me an exchange, but they did not have any more copies of Beyond Good and Evil. So I ended up using that money for something else. And that was the last time I played it, all of those years ago. So I've never gone back. But it's interesting because this game, this is the second time it's been re-released,
yes,
right? Because it was on like 360.
It was on PS3, yeah. 360, yeah.
Yeah. So it's cool to see it get re-released again. I was kind of curious about checking it out again. So I was glad to have this conversation with you guys to see like, how much it's updated, because when I'm looking at gameplay now and I'm like, this looks, I mean, clearly it's definitely better, obviously, than it was when you ran it at, 480p on a CRT. But it's like, this seems kind of light on some of the remastered stuff, but maybe that's just my memory.
It's basically upscaled it and smoothed it out, right? And like it's 60 frames. So it still very much looks frames. Like an Xbox or a PS2 game, I'll say that, or GameCube.
Yeah, just smooth out a little. The higher frame rate is nice, I'll say. But this game's kind of interesting because it does remind me of Zelda in some ways. Like, you have this open world you're in, an open world with many loading screens, I would say.
Sure.
But you have this hoverboat, Dustin.
I didn't realize I even had it on the
drive
GameCube. There you go.
Yeah,
oh,
there it is.
Nice.
Yeah,
I feel like it is a GameCube game primarily.
I was associated with GameCube.
Okay. That's what I thought.
But yeah, you got this boat. You kind of travel around the world in. You can get upgrades. You collect these pearls throughout the world by doing stuff like finding a secret or something like that. You get these pearls and you can use them to upgrade your ship to get stuff like a boost, then a jump to help you further explore areas and stuff like that. But yeah, you got this hoverboat. You go around. There's like one big town you can go to, and there's like just one section of it that is kind of cool. I do like it. There's like a alien invasion thing kind of going on right now. I'm not exactly sure what the hell's happened. The more the story's being unraveled as I'm going through it. But you got some exploration. There's some free stuff or some free roaming. Like in this back alley area, there was some doors I found just kind of went into, and they were into like little mini dungeons, I would say. Like one with a conveyor belt, and I was going through like a platforming section with all that, which I thought was cool. Like getting rewarded and finding a sweet little mini dungeon is always fun with me. But the main thing is like there's these big dungeons you go to, I guess. I'm just calling them dungeons because that's what they're taking inspiration from clearly with these things. But yeah, you go through them. Like John said, you usually have a companion character with you throughout a lot of this. The first thing you have is PJ, that pig guy. And he's with you, like actively walking around with you. And while you're attacking, you can have him do like attack commands also, like with triangle and stuff like that. He'll do some attacks, help you with some puzzles, maybe push a block for you because it's too heavy and stuff like that. There's a couple other characters you run into along the way that fill that role as well. But I do enjoy going through it and kind of unraveling it. Like it is a Zelda dungeon, but far less complex and good, I would say. Everything's kind of divided off into small sections like quadrant A, B, C, D within these things, but I do enjoy going through them. Also, there's a lot of stealth in the game. That's like, I would say this is like a pretty heavy stealth game. The further you get onto it, a lot of times, there's these guys like weird helmets, like metal helmets, these alien guys or something like that, and you can't really just fight them normally. You can't run up to them, hit them with your staff. They'll take you out pretty quickly, but you can shoot these tanks on their backs to like puts them in a vulnerable state, and you can kick them to kill them and stuff like that. So those are most of the enemies I would say throughout the game. There's occasionally like weird alien guys, but most of the time it's just been those guys so far, and they're okay. There's like a couple boss fights I've done that are fine. They're okay. And the second dungeon though is kind of interesting though, because you use your hovercraft a lot into it. It's like you take your hovercraft into this dungeon. It reminds me of what is it called? Tower of the Gods or something in Wind Waker. The one where you take the King of Red Lions into it with you. You take them in there. But you have this one in there with you, and you're kind of going to different sections of the map and like raising like a gate or something like that to drive your boat through, which I thought was interesting, but of course nowhere near as good as like Zelda or anything like that. Playing this game, I could see why people like it so much. I understand why so many people think it's a beloved game. And I do enjoy it also. I'm not like crazy in love with it, but I think it's enjoyable what I've been playing through. I'm happy to go through it. And it's exciting, I guess, just to whenever Beyond Good and Evil 2 comes out someday, if ever, whenever, I'm going to be happy to have that context going in through it. But yeah, I don't think it's as good as people say it is yet. But then again, I'm playing it in 2024. So I'm sure at the time it was like way more crazy, and I totally acknowledge all that stuff, but I still think there's some fun here, and it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're into games in that era. Like if you love the Ratchets, the Slies, the Dax, Jack
it
Dax,
feels very much like a
checking
2002, 2003 game.
Yeah, exactly. A Ubisoft one, and it's like a pretty unique game. The soundtrack's also pretty unique, I would say. Some of it, Dustin, like there's like classic orchestra going on, stuff you'd expect, and then you go into like a bar. There's a bar in the game that's like your hideout, I guess, and it sounds like the music in it sounds like Jabba's Palace from the special edition, just like that weird guy singing. I'm like, this is like some George Lucas,
the iconic Star Wars character. I think it's Snoodle, right? The weird frog with the lips. Yeah,
I think it's it's like during that song, but that's what it reminded me of, like a special Star Wars special edition song the whole time going through it. And you can play like a couple games in there. Like there's like you can gamble some money, like play some air hockey type game with some like weird fish man, which I think is cool. But it's an interesting game with a lot of interesting ideas. I don't think they all come together, and they're kind of rough in a lot of ways. But for the time, I think it was probably pretty awesome. And I still think there's something to enjoy with this game, especially like those old games. I'm still I'm going to definitely finish the game because I want to see it through to the end because people keep telling me the story gets way crazier. And I just want to know what everyone's so crazy about for 2. Like, what's getting them all that hyped? I'm just curious about that. I want to know. I want to have that feeling of being excitement. Maybe it ends on a cliffhanger. I have no idea. So definitely looking forward to finishing it to the end. John, did you ever finish it? I know you played it back in the day.
I would probably say I didn't because I also don't have the same nostalgia that a lot of people seem to have for it, where it's this incredible game that they remember. But I feel like a lot of games from that time, we kind of think that way, and then we go back and revisit it, and we're like, oh, well, it's not. I shouldn't have done that, you know. I had that feeling actually with Sands of Time a bit. Prince of Persia, where I went back and played it after that. And I was like, oh man, the controls feel very delayed and it's not as concise as I thought. So maybe that's something that's happening here for people with Beyond Good and Evil. But it definitely wasn't, if I had finished it on Game Tap, it wasn't enough for me to remember it so much. I feel like back then though, that was like the early PC days for people where you get a video card and you would just fire up a bunch of games. But yeah. I don't think it was even that time. So I'm going to play through it here because I want to, like you said, I want to see what the hype is about this and see how they link it to Beyond Good and Evil 2, because the fact that they did that tells me that they said it's still in development, like it's still a thing. And if they link it that way, then I have to assume that development's back on track, or they at least have a vision in mind here. But Ubisoft is such a stubborn company for some of the weirdest games. Like I know Skull and Bones was linked to the Singapore government or something, and they had to get it done. Yeah. But sometimes they'll just show up with a game after a decade of apparently being in development, rebooted multiple times. All right, it's out. It's coming out. It's a thing. Like what they did with Prince of Persia, like they desperately apparently want that to come back to where they will reboot it, move like top studios to it, and do all this stuff. So yeah, Beyond Good and Evil 2, it'll be an interesting documentary in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's weird about that Prince of Persia remake, that it was pretty much done. There were trophies for it on PSN that someone got. So, but they went and yoinked it.
It looked, from what they showed of it, it looked ugly as hell, ugly as sin. So I'm glad they scrapped it and went back to the drawing board. But yeah, just quickly with Beyond Good and Evil, I just want to say, I think the idea of 2 could be really interesting because there are cool ideas in this game, and I can see the potential in a lot of ways. It reminds me of like Assassin's Creed 1, where I'm like, okay, I could see there's some really cool stuff here. I can see what's going on. I'm hoping the next step will be like that leap, like AC2 was for the series. So hopefully we'll see. I'm definitely going to finish it, so I'll report back. Let's see. Jose Horich wrote in, "Hello, gentlemen. I feel like Beyond Good and Evil doesn't get a fair shake in this community, specifically on sacred symbols."
It wasn't me.
So I'm very happy to see Brad and John are playing it. I absolutely adore this game. It's my comfort game, along with Tomba 2. It has such a beautiful world, memorable characters, and engaging gameplay. But the thing I love the most is the music. The soundtrack in Beyond Good and Evil is such an underrated masterpiece of a score. There's amazing piano work, haunting melodies, and high-octane pieces for action sequences. The soundtrack has it all. Everyone needs to experience this game. It's truly something special. Well, there you go.
Well, now I have to beat it.
Are you guys talking shit on this game?
Oh, no, it's Colin. I mean, of course it's Colin, yeah. Which I think, if I remember right, Colin was saying that he liked it and thought it was good, but doesn't understand the clamoring for this game now, or the sequel in hindsight.
Famously, doesn't understand the 9.7 or now 9.6 of Elden Ring.
Oh,
famous.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't understand that.
So what does he know?
I will always come back to, so John, we always joke that Summon Sign is the show that we go on to shit on other members of our team.
Yeah, it's
publicly.
Sign.
This is Colin didn't beat the intro of Nier Automata and then said that it wasn't for him. So I don't know if he couldn't beat it because there's that whole like reload system. So I don't know. Can we believe anything he says? Hard to say.
No, you cannot. All right, this is from Easy Icon. What's up, Summoners? What the F in hell is Beyond Good and Evil, and what is the obsession for a sequel to this game? Is it really that good, or is it just internet hype? Thanks, and be good people. Well, we talked about it for a little bit, but the obsession for the sequel, I would say, is this game is a cult classic. It has a cult following, definitely. And they announced this game, the sequel, so long ago. I don't know how many years has it been, like 8 years or something like that?
Wasn't it?
Was it 2016 we first heard about? Like we first heard about it was 2016. I thought I might be right. They mentioned it, and then they eventually showed. They did this weird stream where they showed gameplay of it for some reason.
Yeah, the monkey flying around.
He said flying around. I was like, what is this? And they couldn't even describe it or explain it. And then I think that was just them. They made a sandbox, the engine. All right, let's fly around to see if it works. There you go.
Yeah.
And then people are trying to pull story reasons out of it. It's like I think they just made a little vertical slice and just made sure it didn't explode. Is it legendary status for this game to where it's kind of like that Half-Life 3 thing of just the idea that it could exist is one of the things driving it for that audience?
Yeah, it's like Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah.
Or whatever. It's like the same thing. It's just, I mean, this game has fans and I can see why, but it's just like this sequel has been in the works for so long and people are just suffering for anything from this game. So, well, the good news is you got Skull and Bones. That actually came out, so maybe you'll actually get this. Hopefully it'll be much better, though.
Is this the game that they... Go ahead, Dustin. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, this one, I'm looking on Wikipedia. It says in 2022, Beyond Good and Evil 2 broke the record held by Duke Nukem Forever as the longest development for a video game at more than 15 years. So that might be part of it.
Oh, they did mention it. They did mention it that long ago, didn't they? Because I feel like they've said it in passing in interviews, like, hey, we're going to do a sequel to this, but that was kind of it. So, yeah, it really might have been that. Jeez.
Wait, you said 15 years?
This is what this Wikipedia says is 15 years.
I believe it. That's fucking crazy, though.
I think it was 2000 and it might have been 08 or 07. I remember they did mention in an interview because I had to look it up myself when I talked about it at one point. I was like, they really said it that long ago and it's still not out.
So here we go. It says rumors about a sequel began to circulate around 2007 in Nintendo Power interview with Ansel, which that's part of the problem is that what is Michel Ancel? He was like ousted or something. He had like a sexual misconduct allegations. I don't know how that sorted out, but he's not been involved. And there's another thing too. I wonder if there's a curse with games because do you remember how they had Joseph Gordon-Levitt on stage at E3 because his company was going to, I think it's like press start record.
The music thing,
like,
right?
Yeah, they were like, come help us work on this game. And listen, another game tried to do that, Mega Man Legends 3, and look what fucking happened. Canceled. Oh, it's still painful.
They're going to put that demo in the Legends collection when that comes out.
Yeah.
Man.
They're going to put Tron Bonne in there too right after you bought it.
Dude, our audience keeps joking about that because I keep buying games and then within a year they get remastered.
Oh, good. Keep buying expensive games then, Dustin.
Dude, I spent over $100 on Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and within 4 months they announced the remake. So,
excellent.
And dude, Tomba was one of them. Metal Gear,
you've been championing for a while.
I played through all the Metal Gear games, and then they announced the Legacy Collection. So, if this wills a Mega Man Legends collection together, it was worth it. It was worth the price.
Is that the move? Legends 1, 2, Tron Bonne, and then the demo for 3?
Dude, I mean, that would be the move, but I just want, if that led into 3, like a proper 3, not a 3DS 3, which I guess that definitely wouldn't be possible now, but that would be the dream, man.
Yeah. You guys remember Red Ash? After it was the Mighty Number 9 version of Mega Man Legends that they kickstarted or whatever. There was a demo of it, or like it was Inafune.
Oh yeah, okay, it was Inafune. Yeah.
There was like a little sandbox thing they released. I remember, like a room you can mess around in. I remember playing it when I was at Game Trailers with your boy Kyle Bossman, Dustin. I was playing it with him.
Yeah, this is
and it just died.
This is a Kickstarter. They got $162,000, and it is. I think disappeared. I'm trying to see if there's been.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I feel like
the last update was in 2015. Ouch.
Yep. Rest in peace. Inafune took that money and ran.
Fall from grace.
He's out, dude. But for Mega Man, Dustin, they're running out of Mega Man stuff to remaster. They've done so much already. So the collections, what do we got? We got the original ones. We got X collection. We got a Zero collection too, I think.
Yep.
And we got the Battle Network games. So we need the RPG. What was it called? Command Mission, I think. Something like that.
Yep. Command Mission, yep.
yeah, then we need the Legends. Because I would love to play through Legends again. I've never finished 2, so I would love to play that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, John, you're like known as a Mega Man X fan, which is kind of interesting because
I do like
Colin
X
is
a lot.
known as the classic Mega Man fan, and he likes X, but he's kind of impartial to it. But
He loves the original ones more, yeah.
But you're like the X guy, right?
I do like X. I mean, I like the original Mega Man too, but I was more into X when that came out. I felt like it just took everything to the next level with a lot of the movement and the wall climbing and all the different weapons and upgrades they did for. Eventually, I think it got a little out there with like X5 and X6. They started to do a lot with the armor. I just like the classic. You collect your armor pieces. You do get really powerful, and we'll hide something like a Hadouken in there, or we'll hide the gold armor. And eventually, we'll have Zero kind of show up, and you can sort of play as X. To me, I'm one of the few people that really liked X3. X3 was awesome. That was like one of my favorite X games.
Yeah, I think X3 is a good game.
But it seems like no one really ever talks about that one. But I thought that was 16-bit era was like Capcom figured everything out. Although X2 kind of goes under the radar as well. But X3, I think, was like my favorite one at that time. But they need to do X9, then Legends Collection, and then probably a new Battle Network. That's kind of the lineup I would do for Capcom.
Yeah, sure. What are the most popular X games? Probably 1 and 4?
Yep, X4
yeah,
and
4 is
1.
my favorite.
Yep.
So 4 is the most popular, you think? Yeah.
I think 4 probably is. But I if I had to sit down and say what's the best X game, like right now, I'd probably say just the original Mega Man X.
Yeah, the original one is
so good.
A masterpiece. Stone cold classic right there. Dustin, you've played all those?
No, I've never played a Mega Man. I mean, I've checked it because one of them, I think it was just X, was on the Super Nintendo Classic. So I played like a little bit of it there when I was checking out all the games. But I'm not well aware of the X series really at all.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think I played anything past 5. I'm trying to think. That's when they which one when they did like the weird 3D? Was that 7?
That was 7. As X6,
Where he
people do
plays
like
Axel.
X6, but they started to have all kinds of different armors. You had like a Falcon armor, you had like a ninja armor, you had a lot of stuff happening. I like sticking with the class. X4 people liked because you turn it on and it's like, do you want to be X or do you want to be 0? And everyone's just like, I want to be 0. That was it.
Yes, I was big 0.
Yeah, so and X is actually pretty good in that one too.
Yeah, X is great.
To be 0, so he got some really good upgrades in the game, and he just is different gameplay style. Everyone just wanted to use a lightsaber. That was all. So, but Dustin, there is a whole world out there for you with Mega Man X up until 6. You can cut it off at 6. 7 and 8 don't exist. You can just leave that aside. But I'm telling you, if you start with X, that game in terms of just platforming has aged beautifully, and you can just get the X collection. I'd probably say on the PlayStation, because that is kind of still the same setup as a Super Nintendo controller, more so than like the Xbox controller.
Right.
And you play through that. It is a blast. It is awesome.
Yeah, I've always thought about it. I know because I might be annoying and want to play it on Super Nintendo, since that's my
That too.
That
my
makes
CRT
sense,
is hooked up. That's my Super Nintendo is the only one that I've got like pure RGB signal.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you have that option, do that.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, man.
Yeah. So I might have to. I'm guessing that one's not cheap though. Even just
X3 is
only.
incredibly expensive.
Well,
it's like 180, I think.
Ouch. Well,
do you have an EverDrive or?
No, I need to get one.
I'd recommend it.
Yeah, that'd probably be the move. But yeah, maybe at some point,
maybe hack your Super Nintendo Classic. That's fun too.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've done that. I've done that too. Yeah. So
okay, you can play it.
That might be the move as well.
Either one.
But
I recommend EverDrive though. I have that for like all the systems, and it's really good.
Wait, what's EverDrive?
It's you basically have a cartridge that sits in your system, and then there's an SD card in there, and it basically reads ROMs off of there, and then it loads onto the system. It pretends to be that game, but then your actual hardware will play it. So it'll be just like you had the cartridge, which is good for how out of control the retro market's gotten at this point. But I think the N64 one's been good for me. The Game Boy Advance one's been great. I have that. And like I have the N64 where I wired the HDMI port in and tapped into the chip itself, and that is an awesome experience to have that with the EverDrive. But Super Nintendo one's very good.
I have the Super Nintendo cores on my Analog Pocket, so and I have the dock. So
I have that too. Yeah,
which Analog sells? Do you know anything about this, John? Analog sells a digital to analog converter. Have you ever seen that?
I don't think I've played around with that. No.
Yeah. So then I kind of want to get, it's like $100 or something, but
Mhm.
you can then use your pocket and it will convert the signal to analog so you can run it on a CRT.
Oh.
Damn,
Oh, wow.
that's cool.
Interesting.
Sounds cool. It's probably out of stock though, knowing analog. But so
Yeah. Or they have 300 different variants of it in just different colors.
yeah, most likely.
Damn. Yeah. Damn, dude. I need to get a CRTV now, dude.
Dude,
Sounds so fun playing the old hardware on that.
you're hunting for a Zelda 3DS, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But the CRT,
I know.
you get so much more mileage if you find a nice CRT, man.
Yeah, I know. But I have a weakness for Zelda shit like that, so I need to get it done. I think that's like the one thing I need though for a Zelda collection, Dustin. I don't need the other 3DSs. I'm fine.
Dude, I love
It's like,
that the Hyrule Shield one. I actually think is the coolest one.
I saw that at a store recently. It was very expensive.
Which Zelda 3DS are you looking for?
The Link Between Worlds one.
Oh,
It's like the gold and black one.
That one is actually pretty nice looking.
Yeah, I was like, I like the Majora's one too, but my girlfriend has that one already, so I'm like, all right, we're good on that. So I want to get the other one. And I want the 3D effect on it. I have a 2DS XL, which is very nice, but I want the 3D. I think the 3D is cool for some games. I like it for some of them. Like the Mario 3D Land is incredible.
Yeah,
that's
the best.
It's so
that's
good.
one of the best uses of it. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
or
so
you know,
good,
it's also really good use for it is the Virtual Boy games on it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I did that
Boy,
for
dude.
the 3DS. Or you mod the 3DS, and then they made the whole new emulator for it. You can play Virtual Boy games on it, and it actually like takes advantage of the 3D effect where it has legit depth, and it looks like you're playing a non-terrible looking version of a Virtual Boy game.
That's pretty cool. Dustin, do you have a Virtual Boy?
No, I've seen them before. At one of the shows I went to, there was this guy that was going, John, you'll probably know more about this. There's some capacitor or something that is prone to go bad in Virtual Boys. And so all of his Virtual Boys were serviced and ready to go. I can't remember the price though. It sounds like a fun system to own just because it's so unique. And realistically, you can get most of the games on it since the library is so small. But obviously it will cost you a lot. But at some point, I think it would look awesome, like just in the background of my set here to have one.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It would stick out a lot, like the nice red.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it looked really nice back there. Yeah, it's you're talking about one of the eyes going out, so you need both eyes to obviously function to do that 3D effect. And what happens is there's a ribbon cable that runs to the eye itself and the mechanism, and there's glue that holds it there. That'll slowly start to pull apart, and then you'll lose functionality of the eye. So people will usually solder to it to try to, like, running a soldering iron over it, to try to heat it up to reconnect it, or they put it in like an oven. Like actually put it in the oven. Believe it or not, people don't realize this. You can fix a lot of stuff by just putting it in an oven.
Dude, that's how I fixed. I temporarily fixed my Red Ring 360. Not in an oven, but I did the towel trick where you like bake it.
Yep, that's all you need. As long as it works for the 10 minutes GameStop needs to test it.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly what I did.
That's what people do all the time.
Speaking of Mega Man, Dustin, Misadventures of Tron Bonne. You
Yeah,
got it.
I
You
got it.
rebought it. You had it before. You sold it. You regretted it. We've all done that. It sucks. But you bought it again. How much did you pay for this, first of all? I know this is a very rare PlayStation 1 game.
Let me take a guess. Let me take a guess.
I got
a guess. 3.
Oh, you want to? Yeah, take a guess.
3. I'm gonna say 380.
You're almost right in a way.
Oh, okay.
Okay, here. Let me explain. Because I get to give some context for people.
Yeah.
So, in terms of my PS1 collection, I'm not like the type of guy that's like, I need to own the rarest games just because they're rare. Like, I don't need the Mortal Kombat 1 jewel case stuff. I don't need, those are cool. If I had the opportunity to get them, great. But I don't need to spend top dollar. Tron Bonne was a game because growing up, I've mentioned before, my uncle was just 3-4 years older than me. So we played games all the time. We loved Mega Man Legends. We loved 2. So Tron Bonne was a game that we would regularly rent from the local grocery store, Giant Eagle. They had Eagle Video. That's where we would go and rent Tron Bonne, along with like Mario Party and stuff like that. So we played this game on rental quite a bit. And at some point, well after. I ended up getting it. I can't remember when, but I owned it for a significant period. And it was right after I first got married. And it's funny, I was actually talking to my father-in-law about this because he saw my Instagram post about buying it. I was like, I know I needed money at the time, but I can't remember if it was for a good reason or just because I wanted something. So I was like, let's just say that I needed money for a good reason, like a bill needed paid. So I sold it at the time and I was like, man, I made $200 from selling this. This is insane. A PS1 game worth $200 back in 2011, I think. No, a little after that, maybe 2013 or 14. So I felt like, man, I really made out on this. And it wasn't until many years later that I really got serious about collecting again. And I realized, like, man, I want to recollect some of these games that I used to play when I was a kid. And Tron Bonne, unfortunately, has gone up insane. And this, I knew at some point that for my personal wants of my collection, that was going to be the Band-Aid that needed ripped off. Right. So back to the price. What did I pay? The sticker price at my local shop, which this was totally in line with price charting value, was $600. So I didn't quite pay that because through yard selling and stuff like that, I had like an extra Super Nintendo. I had some random games. So I traded in a bunch of stuff and like extras, not stuff that I, had or stuff that part of my collection. I traded in all my extras and then I walked out paying cash $350. So John, you were close on what I paid kind of, but not the actual sticker price.
Quite a bit. Geez, even where I remember. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, this game has ballooned up to $600 at this point, which is just insane. It's in the top 5. It might be the third most expensive PS1 game because I think number 1 might be there's a variant of Siphon Filter, and I think it's now known by the community as the 9/11 edition because I think it has the Twin Towers in the background. And they either recalled it or pulled it from shelves and then put it out with a new cover. So there's some of these 9/11 editions of Siphon Filter floating around, and those are most really expensive. The Mortal Kombat jewel case version is actually more expensive than the long box version. Mortal Kombat 3, I want to say. So that's a big one. And then Klonoa is up there, but not as high. Valkyrie Profile is very high. But so yeah, this is the one that I knew I needed to rip the Band-Aid off at some point and get. And as I mentioned, my local game store, shout out Main Level Games on Main Street here in Butler. He had it. Dude, he got an insane trade-in. He had that. He had Snatcher on Sega CD there, which the Kojima game, I think it was over $1,000 for that. So some awesome stuff there. But with these big expensive games that I sometimes buy, I'm like, I got to play it. I'm not.
Yeah, of course.
I would love to be the type of collector that plays everything he buys, but just not realistic. But when it comes to these really big games, especially ones that I'm have nostalgic connection to, it's like, yeah, I'm going to pop this in. I'm going to play it. I spent so much on it and remember. So I have been playing the Misadventures of Tron Bonne. And for those who don't know anything about
Hold on. Before we get into it, though,
yes.
Brian Borlaug wrote in, "Hey boys, Dustin, how are you feeling about Tron Bonne in 2024? I have such nostalgia for that weird fucking game from playing it relentlessly back in the day. I recently snagged a $6 copy of the classic on my Vita, and I'm amped to get back to it. Bonsai."
Yeah. So a $6 digital copy is a much smarter investment, I would say,
yes,
to play this game. Absolutely. But yeah, so this is a spin-off of Mega Man Legends. It was released between Mega Man Legends 1 and 2. There is a demo disc for Mega Man Legends 2 included, so it is a 2-disc game.
I didn't know it was before Legends 2. It came out before Legends 2? Wow, I didn't know that.
I can't remember the exact years, how long they were apart from each other, but yeah, it was in between those two. And this stars, of course, the titular character Tron Bonne, her and her family. And at the beginning, I think it's Teasel Bonne gets abducted because he owes money to a rival pirate group. And so it's your mission to get enough money to save him. And so Tron Bonne, as I mentioned, she's a pirate. There's some One Piece elements in this. It's a world that is all about these different islands, an ancient mystery and pirates going around stealing stuff. So yeah, you play as Tron Bonne going around trying to make money. And so you can definitely tell as an adult playing it, you can see that this was a game that they thought, okay, well, we have an idea. We can use a lot of assets we already have, and we can kind of probably put this out pretty quick. And so it overall plays a lot like Mega Man Legends as far as like when you're actually moving your character around and in combat and stuff. But the format is really different in that it's all mission based. So you are on like a screen that's like their Tron Bonne's ship. And so you go out and there's 4 different mission types. And that's where it actually gets really different, is that there's an action mission where you go and rob banks, and it's awesome because you get to go and blow up towns. Like you just shoot random civilians. It's kind of hardcore. Like you're just, there's like kids that will throw rocks at you and you can just blast them with the blaster.
Whoa.
It's pretty brutal. But so there's those missions. There's missions that are more puzzles where you're on a dock and you need to steal supplies and stuff like that. Another mission, which is called the RPG missions, which are first person, and you kind of control this like drone character with your surf bots, and you go around in these different caves trying to find loot. And then there's the main mission, I would say, which I think is what you're trying to do, is to search this cave where you're actually in your big suit going around fighting much more classic Mega Man Legends style. And there's no way to beat it at the beginning. So your main goal is to upgrade your robot in order to go and complete that main mission. But what's really cool is that there's a whole element of managing your serve bots, the little yellow guys, which, dude, serve bots were totally like minions before Minions, where that's like there's a bunch of them. They're they are your minions, and you kind of control them, and they have each has personalities written out. Like this one ends up being kind of lazy. This one has aspirations to be a cook, stuff like that.
Sounds like Ape Escape or something.
Yeah.
Leading the monkey brains. Kind
of like that. So when you're on your ship, you can go and talk to ones that will upgrade your robot. There's like a cafeteria where you can talk to them. There's one that I think you can give like recipes to, stuff like that. I haven't gotten to this yet, and it's only a memory in my mind, but I know it's in the game. Eventually, there's certain serve bots that can get lazy. And so in this game, you have to literally torture them. Like there's like a torture chamber where you go and like you like blast them with fire and shoot spikes out, and then you got to whip them into shape. And
That's
so I haven't
awesome.
unlocked that yet, and I refuse to look it up on YouTube yet because I just want to unlock it and remember it. But it's surprising how many like more brutal elements are in this game for being a kid's game, which even in like Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, technically I think it's 2, where there's a whole mechanic where you can make a Mega Man evil, where you're going around like you can like blow up pop machines and attack people, and Mega Man will start to get darker. Like his suit will eventually turn black, like Venom or something.
Oh, that's interesting.
So yeah, there's that whole mechanic in there as well. But it's been fun going through, and it's always fun when there's a game you haven't played since it came out when you were a kid or something like that. And when you're playing it, there are things that happen. You're like, oh, I remember this. Even though if before I played it, you asked me about it, I'd be like, no, I have no memory of that. But then when you see it, you say, oh, actually, somewhere in my brain, this existed somewhere. And so there's been a lot of moments like that. And it was the last piece of my Mega Man Legends replay, because it's either the last year or the year before I played through Legends 1 and 2 again and had a great time playing those, but wasn't able to play Tron Bonne because I didn't have it. So I'm very happy to add it back to my collection. Happy to play it again. And it's always fun. I love playing PS1 games. That's the system that I had NES before it and I had Genesis before it, but that was when I was like really starting to get into games when I was a kid. And so those games are definitely the most nostalgic for me. So it's been fun. I've been having a great time.
Cool, man. Yeah, this sounds awesome. I never played this. I remember seeing the box distinctly, or the cover of this game, and I was always confused about it because I was like, wait, they made a game about Tron from Mega Man Legends? I was just like, when did this happen, kind of thing. I just didn't even know when it came out or anything like that. It just appeared one day. But I never played it, so I never knew exactly what you did in it. But it sounds pretty cool, like with these serve robots, like this managing them all. And like the idea of torturing serve bots is really funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me want to play the game even more, Dustin. Does this fit in somewhere with like the Mega Man Legends story, would you say? Or is it just kind of its own thing?
That's what I'm trying to remember, because I couldn't remember if at the end of the game, like Mega Man is in it or not. And so I'm waiting to see if that happens. But I believe that it does technically for Tron take place between Mega Man Legends 1 and 2, but it's on a totally separate island from those two games.
Right.
Again, if I remember correctly, it's on its own island. And so, but yeah, it has quite a few of the villain characters. And it is, I don't want to say super rare, but there aren't a lot of games that you just get to purely play as the villain, unashamed of being a villain. So it's like, yeah, I get to go and rob a bank. I guess there are a lot of games like that now, I think, like GTA and stuff. But in a kid's game, it's like, yeah, I'm going to go and rob the bank and steal from people. And that's what you're supposed to do. It's fun.
Yeah. John, any history with this game or any interest?
Yeah, when I was younger, we rented it, but that was about it. I think for a weekend. And it was between that and I think like Digimon World, that original Digimon game. I ended up going with Misadventures because they did not have Digimon. So I ended up with it by default. But I vaguely remember playing this one. Out of all the stuff back then, I remember playing the original Mega Man Legends and X4. I think those are the PS1 Mega Man games I remember the most. So I remember looking at this on, because as you mentioned, it was like $6 on the Vita.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, technically
PSN price, yeah.
Is now, yeah. And that's a game that I would love to see. That's why I said I'd love to see Capcom do it and put it into a collection, because I feel like that's where I would play it. Although I guess I could just emulate it now, but I probably played it for a Saturday or something, and then it went back that Sunday. So as a kid, that's one I'd love to go back and try again, like we're doing Beyond Good and Evil right now, just to see how it held up. But it feels like it kind of has that adventure zaniness from like the late 90s for a PS1 game where they were just trying anything with these different IPs. So I feel like I'd get a kick out of it, but it's probably on like the lower end of a lot of the Mega Man games that I played back then. But I appreciate them trying something very, very different at that time.
Yeah. Dustin, I love Mega Man Legends 1. I've like barely played 2, so I don't know. So
it's so much better. 2 is way better.
Really? Okay, that's cool to hear. I love like the vibe of 1. I love the town you're in and everything like that. So this gets me very excited to one day revisit it, and also very sad that we never got 3.
Yeah,
but
that was so disappointing, that whole situation, just because it had been a while when that 3DS game got announced, and I know there was the demo, but I don't know if I even had a 3DS when that demo came out. So, but yeah, I think Brad, what I'm going to do now that I've completed, I have Legends 1 and 2, I have Tron Bonne, I have Legends 1 and 2 Japanese that I got when I was in Japan for pretty cheap. And I think that all I have left is like, I need the greatest hits Mega Man Legends, I need Mega Man 64, and there's also a PC release of Mega Man Legends that honestly I think is technically more rare than Tron Bonne, because it came in a PC big box, and there are none listed on eBay.
Wow.
And they only pop up every once in a while, and they usually sell for like $150 or something, which is still expensive, but I'm assuming that it's insanely rare because it never shows up. So I need that, maybe the guide, but I've never gone for like a complete series collection. But I'm like, Mega Man, I'm already most of the way there, and it's not that big as far as Mega Man Legends specifically.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Yeah, you're pretty deep in it already. So
I do see it here on PC. It's not the big box one. It's just in the jewel case.
Yeah.
It says it includes a Mega Man Legends desktop theme as a bonus.
Funny thing about that, John, I need to verify this. Someone on our Discord said that they forgot to put the theme on the disc, and so they offered it later as a download or something. But I think there's technically no theme because they just didn't put it on the master. But
well, yeah, I forgot they did put a bunch of these Mega Man games at that time on PC. So they had like Mega Man X on. That's actually when I remember playing was X on the PC because they had a few things that were different in the PC version versus the Super Nintendo version. Like they had ride armors in certain levels that weren't in the Super Nintendo version. But I did not know that Legends was on PC like that. That's cool.
Yeah. The jewel case version or just like without the box is more common. It's still like $80 usually, but if I'm gonna do it, I gotta get the box. The box is cool.
Sure. Yeah. Might as well go all out if you're going to.
Oh, X3 was on PC too. Weird.
Yeah, there's a weird. What's funny? Some of these PC games, I primarily remember playing Sonic 3 and Knuckles on PC because there was a PC port of those Sonic games, and that's just what I had growing up. It's weird. I had a Genesis. I didn't have Sonic 3 on it, but I had it on PC, so that's where I played that. So kind of a weird.
That's crazy. I didn't even know there was a PC version of that. Mm-hmm. Damn. Random PC ports, man. All right, John. Let's talk about WWE 2K24.
Oh, you actually put that in. All right, cool.
Oh, I did. I don't think we've ever had a wrestling game on the show, so I'm curious.
That's what I figured. I was like, let's throw a random curveball in there.
Yeah.
For a game. And the reason, so for me, I'll do a lot of the single player games like you're talking about Beyond Good and Evil, the Elden Ring stuff. But I will have like the social quote unquote multiplayer game that I'll play from time to time where a couple of friends will get on and we'll play a Call of Duty or like a Halo or wrestling, WWE 2K24. And my history with wrestling games specifically, not necessarily watching on TV, or I actually don't really watch it at all. I just like the games because it's more of a arcade brawler almost.
Yeah.
So for me, it goes back to like the N64 days really with No Mercy, and then up through the PS2 and GameCube days with like SmackDown, Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, and like Day of Reckoning. And then they just messed everything up. Like they had to take a year off because they had some falling out with Ukes and Visual Concepts, I think. And then they came back, and since then, it's still kind of busted, but it's a lot better. So 2K24, I've put a lot of time into at this point, and most of it's been the multiplayer stuff. But then the single player, what they did this year that I thought was kind of interesting, they have what they call showcase mode. So they pick out through WrestleMania history, like stuff, even if you don't really watch wrestling, you've heard people talk about it, like Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan. And what they do is you play through the match and they stitch in like actual clips that they have from their archive, video clips in there. So as you're doing things, they give you objectives in the match to do. And they'll take it from gameplay with the visuals there, and it'll kind of fade into like the actual clips of it, and they kind of explain what's happening as you're doing it. Then they'll jump back to gameplay, and the idea is eventually you get to the end and you complete all the objectives they've given you and you unlock stuff with it. But you basically walk through the match yourself doing these different moves to win, or calls a DQ or whatever the story called for at that time. But it's kind of interesting because it goes from like the early 90s, 80s all the way up to now, and you'll play through these iconic matches. And it is funny because the visuals we have now in games are getting so close to how like because back then they were recording with like 240i or something in some of these old clips, and so it's kind of blurry a bit. They did their best to remaster it, but when they then go to the gameplay, at times it just looks way cleaner and even better than what they showed with the old historical footage. But it's just such an interesting thing to see that, and it does make me think of, because they did Stone Cold and The Rock back when I was in like middle school, and it's like, okay, I do remember this, and then you're kind of acting it out essentially through it, but you unlock stuff, and that was really cool. The problem I have with the game is, for as lucrative as you figure this should be, because they're publicly traded now, WWE, and they'll talk about how much money they just got, like a $5 billion deal from Netflix. So you feel like their gaming property should be high quality, and it's just not, which is a shame. So if you go online with this thing, this might be one of the most broken online experiences I've ever had in my life. So in order to play the game against people, you go in there and you hit a button to populate a room, like all these different rooms. People will make rooms like, oh, I want to do a cell match. I want to just do a 2-on-2, whatever. And the idea then is once you make it, you sit there and wait for people to join, which is exactly what you did in SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. So it has not changed. And I'm not kidding, 15 years. But the game constantly breaks. The lobbies constantly will shift and move around where people are. You'll start a match 3-on-3, and then they'll flip people from other teams as soon as the bell rings. So you'll be playing against the people who are supposed to be on your team. And there's no way to move people around a lot. It's half the time it doesn't work. But when it does work, it's a lot of fun. Like, we have a good time. We'll play this online, and it ends up being a big reversal fest because people eventually time the moves out. But when you actually beat somebody from a finisher move and your tag partner comes in and takes the guy out and they count like that, there is like a lot of fun and very satisfying moment there for it. But man, the game is broken. I just mostly just wanted to complain about it for like 10 minutes on here.
Yeah. I played a lot of wrestling games with my friends growing up. They are a good time, really fun time. Of course, the N64 era, the PS2 era, like you're saying too, John. I'm curious, when you're playing with your friends, what's the mode you guys are doing?
We do, so it's what we do, because it's me and another person that'll play online. We'll do 2-on-2 extreme rules. So you don't have to tag in and out, and you can just use all the weapons and foolishness that way. You know, you get a ladder and you can bridge it from like the ring to like the barricade, and you can jump through the ladder, and you know, you can set a table on fire. You can do all that stuff. So that's usually what we do. So it's more chaos than anything, rather than trying to be like somewhat formal about it. Everyone just get the sledgehammer and hit the person with it, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what we do too. Get the ladders out, all that stuff.
Yeah, you could do like a big Hell in a Cell match and throw people through it. Those are the ones that always break, though. So you get 5 minutes in and the game will actually crash to the dashboard.
What I think is so fun about these games is I haven't played like a ton of the newer ones, but the character creators are really good in a lot of these. Like, I did play a little bit of 24, and it's like, man, you can make some awesome characters in these games, and like so much customization, all their moves, the storylines are usually funny. Have you been doing any of that, or are you just kind of playing with your buds?
We'll just kind of play with the stock characters they have, but occasionally you'll go into a lobby and you'll end up with like Venom and the Hulk against you. And you're right, they do look really good, because you can edit the entrances, their mannerisms as they walk out, how the camera angles are. So you can completely edit and change up a character how you want, or just make one from scratch. And people are very talented. Like, they've really, and I guess they've had a long time doing it, because even back on the PS2 and GameCube days, what they would do is over on Game FAQs, they would post up values for everything. You could go through and create a wrestler, and they had a number system for dimensions of a character's arms and legs and body type. And then when you're all done, you look back and you've made Super Saiyan Goku or something in the game, right? And that's how we do it. But now you can just go on there, and they basically have a little marketplace that you just click and download characters. So it's significantly easier. I think they've run into some issues with I feel like they've run into issues with copyright. And that was a whole thing where they took somebody out of it and then they put them back. And it's very straight. It's getting to the point where it's just too good, like, for the way that the character models look. So you get likeness issues, I think, in there sometimes. But
you brought up Super Saiyan Goku. It's like, Dustin, it's crazy how there is literally just Super Saiyan Goku hair that you can just pick. It's just like, that's 100% what it is. It's just like, they don't give a fuck.
I feel like it's been there since the PS2 days.
Yeah,
too.
It has been. It's so funny. They just put this kind of stuff in. It's great. They know what people want, I guess. But
it's called like Blonde Mohawk number 4 or something. And it's like, that's just Super Saiyan 1 hair.
Dustin, have you played any of these wrestling games or any interest?
I don't think I've ever played a wrestling game of any era. Maybe at a friend's house, like in first grade. But it's funny about wrestling, because I've thought about this recently, in that I actually would probably be really into it overall. And hear me out here. I feel like there's something about wrestling that's kind of like anime-esque.
Yeah, it's live action anime.
No, it is. It's over the top.
Yeah, it is.
Over the top. And dude, the fact that obviously everyone knows it's like scripted, I'm like, I don't care if having a guy jump off of a ladder and body slam a dude, that sounds that sounds like fun.
Mhm.
So I have thought like maybe I should check out wrestling at some point, whether it's a game or watching it. I don't even know where to start with it. Maybe a game would be the move to just kind of like dip your feet in. But yeah, I always feel like there's people, talking about, WrestleMania or the big events. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here, but I feel like from what I saw when I was a kid and now, it seems like they have even ramped up how ridiculous it is even further. And that makes it more intriguing to me.
Mhm.
I can give you a good recommendation for one you can start with that's not overly expensive.
Okay.
Well, do you have access to just a PS2 with a decent setup for like?
Oh yeah, that's what I have hooked up
Okay,
here.
Cool. Okay, cool. So I mean, I recommend getting something like Here Comes the Pain. It's not incredibly expensive to get it. Like you can get it honestly for like $20, $25 if you look around online. If you just want like the disc, full box and everything, or even just disc only. And that I think is one that had good story. Because the games, the way they work is they have branching paths and you can kind of pick how you want to do it. You build your character. It has like RPG mechanics to it. So you'll create your character, you start at the bottom, and then you work your way up. You get stat points, and you'll make your character really good at submissions or grapples or strikes. And you can make them look like Goku if you want, or yourself. And then you build up through like different storylines around belts, and you betray people or they betray you. And you have a whole backstage area that you'll go through, and you'll have conversations with the people. But that, I think, is one that had good gameplay. I think the speed was faster than we see now. And it didn't have so many mechanics to where you have to worry about stamina for your person. Like they'll get tired in the middle of the match for newer ones, but not in that. So it almost has like our arcade arena style action game. Think of like, I sometimes compare those ones to a Power Stone, for example, at times. So that's the one I would start with, Dustin. If it still has iconic characters, like they have Goldberg and Stone Cold's in there, Brock Lesnar. So that's kind of where I'd start.
Yeah, so when I searched it, this some schmuck YouTuber, Retro Rebound, Mr. Matty Plays, apparently he did a video on this a year ago. So I have this up and I'm looking at it now, and yeah, this looks fun. I like that. I mean, yeah, it has some RPG elements, some story stuff. I mean, this sounds like it's practically a Persona game. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I'm in.
Yeah, that's where I'd start with though. There's a whole rabbit hole you can go down with it. Like I really like Day of Reckoning on the GameCube, but that one I think is a bit slower than people just like SmackDown vs. Raw. That or SmackDown, that was like the pinnacle for a lot of people on the PS2.
Yeah,
so that's the route I'd go.
Jonathan Turner wrote in, "Hello all. This question is for John. What's the GOAT wrestling game in your opinion? Here Comes the Pain, No Mercy, or another one?"
I still think Here Comes the Pain is like the top for me. I think that's like if you had to have like the Mount Rushmore of games for wrestling, I do think you would go No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain, and I would probably throw Day of Reckoning 2 in there. But that it's all from that kind of generation too, which is a shame because I'd like to take something from the last 10 years and it's so difficult to do that. Like I feel like they kind of lost a step when they started making it yearly and 2K. Like I don't think they need a wrestling game every single year, but I understand they sell. It's like Madden. They know they're going to sell probably 10 million copies every year. It's guaranteed. And I think back then when you didn't have numbered ones, they had to be a bit creative with the naming for it. And it would come out every 2 or 3 years. I think that was when they really had it figured out, but it also was probably less lucrative. So for me, Here Comes the Pain, I think is like peak. That's like pinnacle of wrestling games. Although No Mercy was pretty impressive on the 64, but I still think, Dustin, if you're going to start with one, No Mercy is probably the move. Or I'm sorry, Here Comes Pain is probably the move. No Mercy is fun if you just have some people hanging out and you just want to just kick around an N64 game with like that arena brawler. That's probably the one.
I have our local toy and game show is this Saturday at the old Clearview Mall in Butler. So I'm gonna be looking at some games. So maybe this is one I can be on the hunt for this coming Saturday.
Okay. Yeah, I've played lots of Here Comes the Pain back in the day on the multi-tap with the PS2 multi-tap also.
Nice.
Good shit. Yeah, that game is super fun. The career mode is really funny in that game, Dustin, if you play it. It's awesome.
Cool.
You can
It
do some
does get
wild
really
shit
out
in
there,
it.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It gets crazy.
I think at one point my characters walk through the parking lot and a car just hits him.
Yeah, there's some crazy shit like that. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right, boys. It's time for Sort It Out.
Oh,
Same man we
Brad,
just
come
talked
on.
about.
That was mild.
What?
Are you keeping it
Oh.
low key because John's here? I mean, that was not the I expected.
Well,
A
here, let me have a little more caffeine.
little more gamer sippy cup action.
Yeah. Sort it out.
Oh,
How about that?
beautiful.
A little spicier. Sorry.
Much better.
Yeah, Dustin, keep me on my toes, man.
Of course, of course.
Sometimes I got to do that. I had to do that to call on last summon sign. Had to
Good.
get him wake up a little bit.
He was a little low energy. I'm glad you called him out for that. When I was editing it, I was like, you put him in place. You're not afraid. That's good.
Can't be. Gotta get those guests into shape.
Yeah.
It's part of my job. But yeah, in this segment we just talked about something that's bothering us in the game industry, something that needs sorting out. Could be a game, company, or executive, person, developer, whatever. You can get as personal as you want. John, as our guest, why don't we start with you?
Okay. So I'll do the sorted out, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Yes.
Sorted out. Got it. Okay. I'll go with, for sorted out, digital game ownership.
Ooh,
And I think
okay.
I think it's extremely important for gaming to figure this out, and I don't think anyone wants to. And it's funny because they're kind of on either end of it. So for one, the consumer, I think, should be extremely interested in this, but I think a lot of the people who are plugged in enough to listen to podcasts or be keeping up on the industry news, you correct me if I'm wrong, they tend to lean more towards the physical games. Like they want to own the games, they want to buy them and just have them shipped in, and they'll sit there and let a game install for 30 minutes at a time just to know that they have it on that disc. So they don't really want to talk about the idea of that going away and having to have just a digital specific future. And the thing is, I wouldn't be shocked if the next Xbox really gets it moving even more, where it doesn't have a disc drive in like 2.5 years or something. So I think that future is coming, but they don't. Whenever you bring it up, a lot of the people there who prefer the physical media just kind of want to put their fingers in their ears, not want to discuss it at all. And then the publishers don't want to talk about it all either, because it benefits them quite a bit. And if we don't really know how it works with digital media and ownership around it, so if you buy a game, how much do you actually own the rights for that game in terms of, can I take this game to the next system? Can I trade it with somebody? Can I sell it back? It is a whole digital thing, because I feel like 80% of that isn't going to happen. Maybe you can still have it in your library when the store's shut down in 20 years or something, but do you actually get any legitimate tangible benefit from it? And I feel like we're only going to find that out when it's kind of too late and we have all digital systems on our hands, and it's like, okay, now we have to press and figure out what happens here. So I'd prefer that to be sorted out sooner rather than later, but I don't think anyone wants to really discuss it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that's going to come up until it's like absolutely required, when people are getting their pitchforks out. So that'd be great if people sorted that out very soon. I would love that as well.
Yeah. Well, this kind of came up, I think it was last week. I don't know how widespread the issue was, but there was some kind of issue with PSN that whatever was authenticating digital licenses wasn't working for some people. And so people were just locked out of games that they fully paid for, even though they were online and ready to go. It's like, yeah, this is a possibility of what can happen. And, God forbid some of these companies go out of business. Like, obviously that would be bad. And some major shakeups would have to happen for that. But those types of things can happen. And then what does that mean for your purchases? What rights do you have? But yeah, this is something, John, it comes up quite a bit, particularly on Sacred, just because I'm the odd man out when it comes to digital and physical. Like Colin and Chris are both super digital forward. And I probably am the guy that sometimes leans back and puts my hand in my ears and says, no, like, don't care. I'm buying physical as long as I possibly can, but it is an inevitable future. And, something that us physical collectors are going to have to deal with. And so you're right. I think for the benefit of everybody, at least knowing what you're entitled to and what you're not, and getting that sorted out would be ideal.
Like, I'll give you an example of one game that made a big stir was The Crew. If you saw that, where that was being pulled down, Ubisoft just started taking it out of people's library at one point. And the idea was, well, we bought the game. You should have to make an offline mode for this game if we want to play it. But there's nothing really saying they have to do that. Like, okay, so we sold you this game for $60 at the time when it came out. We have The Crew 2, we have The Crew Motorfest. You guys can move to that one. We're just going to shut this down and basically remove access to your library. And the question really is, should they be able to do that, or should they have to do some sort of mode where you can at least drive around in a sandbox and say, okay, these cars that I've unlocked and spent all this time doing and my ownership around this game, I should still be able to access it in some way. And that's going to be tough because a lot of these games are just always connected to the internet. Like, there is just a live service component for most of them. And people realize that as well with the DRM being attached to all of them, Dustin, like you say, when there's authentication that's not available. Like, Xbox had this the other day where Xbox Live went down for like 7 or 8 hours. My Xbox didn't work. It worked, but everything had the little exclamation point next to it. And even when I had like a backwards compatible 360 game, it would hang on the 360 logo when it was spinning. And it's just looking for the authentication. It's like, wow, really? Everything's kind of like it does until it breaks. You don't realize how much your system relies on calling to a server. And it's very interesting because in 2013, I remember that was a massive amount of backlash for Xbox with that same thing. And I still wonder to this day if Microsoft had their Xbox One conference right now and said the same exact things, if it would get that kind of backlash, because we're so used to always being online for everything. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'd probably get a way less now, just because so many people are used to it now. And people are starting to accept it more and more as things go on. But, of course, you'll still get backlash. But I don't think nearly as bad as they got it. I think they're way too early for that kind of announcement for their ecosystem or something like that. Dustin, what about you, man? What needs sorting?
I have a very personal sorted out. Okay. Maybe I need to sort myself out, actually. But so originally, for the patrons that saw the thread, I had another game to talk about. I was going to check out The Last Descendant that's been picking up a little steam, that free-to-play game. And I went to boot it up, and it immediately turned off my PC. Like, my PC just hard turned off. I was like, well, that's weird. I tried it again, and the same result. So I thought, well, it's probably not the game. And I tried booting Baldur's Gate 3, same problem. So there's something that needs sorted out desperately with my PC right now. And it's weird because the last game that I really played on it was with you, Brad. We played Monster Hunter Rise with Ben, and I booted that up, no problem. I was able to boot into the game, was walking around. I'm like, So it's frustrating because I know a decent amount about computers. I can build one. I know how to optimize them. But I can't stand when you have to troubleshoot an issue like this, because I was like, okay, well, maybe my power supply is going bad, but I'm going to run through the other options. Like, I did the super hard clean install of new video card drivers. That wasn't it. I popped out one RAM stick. So I just had one in there. Boots up just fine. Nothing's wrong with it. It's like, maybe my other RAM stick is bad. So I swapped them out. Still boots just fine. So I was like, maybe there was a fluke going on. I put the RAM stick back in, crashes. Like, maybe one of my RAM slots is bad. Maybe there's something else going on. This was all last night, and I was like, you know what? I spent about an hour trying to diagnose things, and I was like, this is my Sunday. I don't really want to do this right now. So I'm just going to leave this be. I'll figure it out later. And that's where I'm at. So I know it would be impossible. I wish there was like a tool. Like, it's so tough because like a power supply, there's no data connection into it. So it's harder to diagnose if that would be it. But I just wish in my dream reality, I could run like a diagnostic tool and it'd be like, oh, this is the issue, but it's power related. So there's just no way to sort it out, I guess, other than continually testing different things until I eventually find the component. And it's really frustrating too, because if it's my CPU or GPU, I was waiting until the next series of graphics cards come out to build a new computer. So I really don't want to replace an expensive individual part on it because I was just going to wait, because I've had this computer for 4 years now, coming up 5 years. So it's been good to me, but I didn't want to build a new one yet, especially with a baby coming imminently. Right. I'd rather just have a computer that works. But I was telling Holly, I was like, yeah, the ability to fix it on my own or just to fix it in general is kind of a luxury, just because if it was my PS5, I would be totally fucked. Like not knowing how to fix it all. So I guess it's a blessing that I can swap out an individual part. It's just the process of figuring it out. And it can be annoying. My friend Brandon, we spent probably 8 hours on his computer trying to figure out what was wrong with it. And eventually I figured out that if I undervolted his CPU or his GPU slightly, it did not crash anymore. So there's something in it that when it runs at, it's like maybe a 5% or something. There's something in it that it's like, well, I still don't technically know what's wrong with it, but it works and it doesn't crash anymore. So, but something's wrong with his GPU. But so sorted out to my PC. Hopefully we can get that fixed in the next few days.
PC issues are like the most frustrating thing ever.
Yeah.
I hate them so much, dude. God, bothers me. All right, I sorted out. Not very major, but it's like, man, Konami, where the fuck are the rest of those Castlevania games, man? You put out a couple good collections. You got the original ones, and then you got the GBA ones. We need those DS ones. We need those N64 ones. Let's get those coming. We need the PS2 ones. I want all of those. Let's keep those collections coming. Let's get back to it.
Those PS2
need
those.
I like the first one. Shout out to the first one. They're not great, but I like it.
The DS ones definitely though. They gotta, that would be cool to have those up.
Gotta get that shit out there. Come on.
I guess they have the drawing the symbols and stuff on the bottom.
Yeah, they'll have to make some adjustments to it, but they can do it. They can figure it out. They're big boys. All right, let's hear from the audience. This is from Sean Miles. Hey guys. PC launchers need to sort it out regarding offline modes. I went camping this weekend with my Legion Go and Midnight Suns / Stick of Truth, only to find out that both require secondary launchers with active internet connections. Unfortunately, there was no signal where we were staying. I played both at home and expected them to work offline, but no dice. So no gaming for me after the kiddos went to bed. Sorted out Ubisoft and 2K. Damn, that sucks.
This kind of goes back to what John was saying, is that it's like, it's especially interesting now in the advent where these PC gaming handhelds are becoming super popular. People are getting into them, and there's like a bit of a rude awakening. I experienced this when the first time I went on a trip with my Steam Deck and Monster Hunter Rise. I want to say I had to connect to my phone hotspot to get it to work. So it's unfortunate.
Damn. Yeah, I'd be so mad, dude. I mean, that's happening before with stuff, but
I'm surprised these PC handhelds don't have like across the board just the option for 4G connection, just for that, just to check in. Like you get a SIM card or something. It's strange to me that's not like the Vita had the 3G connection. It wasn't good, but at least it had it. And that was forever ago now. That's something that PC handhelds should try to do. But you're right that we should get more PC releases where it's understood that you're probably eventually not going to have Wi-Fi for a PC handheld. Right. So it's because I know if you get it on GOG, it's DRM free and it's just a launch or something you launch from your desktop, right? So it's having all these launchers and different rules and stuff for them for offline, online. It's a headache. It is.
Yeah, I got Resident Evil. They put Resident Evil 1 recently on GOG, so I picked it up on there. It is annoying to have another launcher, but it's like, I'll take it, man. I'll do it for Resident Evil any day. Put that on Steam though. Also,
you can. So with GOG, right? You can go on there and you can just download the files, and it's just the launcher on your desktop.
Yeah.
So you don't even need that launcher, Brad.
Oh yeah, I should probably get rid of it then. But
throw that thing in the trash.
I don't know about all that stuff. All right, this is from Nick V. Sup, gentle slits. My sorted out is for the Elden Ring community and LSM. So many people have talked about Moog beating the allegations and Mikola turning everyone gay, but apparently people don't pay attention to the lore at all, or definitions for that matter. A consort isn't necessarily a lover. A consort can be one, but it's usually just a devout follower. Why is everyone's mind always on pedophilia? Whoa. Thanks for all the content, guys, and keep sucking on that slits clits.
Oh,
okay. Okay, dude.
I don't know if John
dude.
knows about the Slitterhead memes with Sacred, but
It
maybe
sounds
it's
like
just
that
better.
game kind of messed you guys up.
The audience is
announcement.
brutal. Yeah. We'll just leave it at that. But so
Yeah.
Nick is talking about our spoiler cast where he said Mikola turning everyone gay, which we weren't 100% serious
Yeah,
about
we
that.
weren't like. Yeah, we weren't.
I honestly don't know enough about the lore and the Mog allegations, but I thought the jokes are really funny.
Yeah.
But so I don't honestly know much about that. But I don't know, Brad, do we need checked on the lore?
So I'll say with Nick, I mean, I don't know. Well, when we first see Moog, like the true Moog, he comes out of the cocoon that Mikola's in, out of his arm, like blood runs down his arm and Moog comes out of that blood. And Moog like holds Mikola's hand in a very feminine way and puts it on his head, I guess, or like that, like he's caressing it almost. So that's fucking creepy shit already. Like you're running down him as blood. So I'm gonna say that's borderline. You need to be on a list, kind of stuff like that.
Questionable behavior.
Yeah, that's questionable behavior, 100%. So I won't back down from that, Nick. Sorry, but it was Mikola's fault. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
And the consort thing, obviously, like that. But it's funnier to just think Mikola turned everyone gay.
Yeah,
that's much funnier. All right, now it's time for Keep It Up. The exact opposite of sorted out stuff we're pleased with. John, let's start with you again.
Sure. I will say for Keep It Up, I will say games that aren't 100 million hours long for no reason. So I played Hellblade 2 and I go through that game. It was a controversial title for social media.
It's not good. You can just say it. It's all right.
What? I like the game. And one of the reasons I liked it actually, which is really funny, is because I had just come off of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Mm-hmm.
That game was like 90 something hours that I spent on it.
Mm-hmm.
And Hellblade 2 was like 6 hours long. And I was like, you know what? That was actually nice. It was nice to go from start point to end point and it not try to, I would say, there's a lot of padding at times in the game, but like not try to fluff it up so that it hit what felt like an hour quota. And the open world stuff in Rebirth, while at first it was good, it started to kind of wear on me for a while. And I'm like, oh, this game is just, it's still going.
You gotta just do, when you get tired of something Rebirth, you just gotta do the main quest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why people were powering through trying to do everything in the world when they're burnt out. I've seen this so many times.
So I would try to do some of the stuff right, then I do the main quest and I go back to this. But even after I finished it, I was still like, I'll go back and I'll try to do all the, and it kept going. And
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in there.
Then I got the point where I'm done the game and I'm still working on some of the other stuff. But then I go, there's gonna be a third one of these. How much longer is that game gonna be? Because it seems like they're just building off the one previous to it. And they said the third one, they have a lot of the stuff done because the assets are already made with the first two. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no, how long are they gonna make that game? For what feels like almost no reason.
200 hours.
Like, I don't mind when a game shows up and it's like, look, this game, it's concise, it's to the point. We're going to, yes, control you with guardrails, but I don't mind getting those games alongside of these big. I don't think every game has to be this big open world spectacle.
No, they don't.
Like, I don't. So I like the idea of getting these quick, smaller games, yes, but just these concise games that go through, have an idea for the experience they want to give you, and you're out in sub 10 hours. I'm fine with those games. I would like to see more of that. I'd like them to keep
variety is a spice of life and that kind of thing. So yeah, something wrong with that.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is I like those games, even if it's ones you play through multiple times. They're like, hey, play through Resident Evil Village over and over again, you get more stuff out of it. All right, cool. Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4, you can people speed run that game pretty quickly, but you play through it over and over again. Like, I don't mind those kind of games where the option to spend 50 hours is there, but you can experience the game and story in like less than 10. More linear games.
Oh, yeah, sure. Dustin.
My keep it up. We talked about this a bit earlier, but keep it up. Local game events.
Yeah.
There's so much value in them. Whether it's something small scale, like I mentioned at the old rundown mall, the Butler area toy show, whether it's something like that or something much bigger, like Too Many Games. There's so much value in just going out there and meeting people with a similar interest, similar hobby, and being able to look at games, support people. It's been especially satisfying for me just being able to go to events, and it's awesome too, just because like the different people that I've been able to meet, whether it's listeners of the show, has been awesome, but also like I would have never had a chance to meet John and Ryan there, and some other people like I mentioned our friend Justin from Eon. That's how I met him, and it's really cool being able to do that. And it's easy, like John was saying earlier, when you're a content creator, that sometimes it can feel like these, even if it's a small amount of bad comments, can weigh you down or whatever, or really bother you. But when you actually get in person and meet people, and this is, I think, true whether you're a content creator or not, you can feel the negativity online. But when you're in person with people of similar interests, it's almost always a great time. So keep it up to the gaming events that are still around. It seemed like it might have been dicey after E3, and I know that PAX is kind of seems like it's waning in some ways, but there are still a bunch of other awesome events, especially in the retro scene. So I encourage everybody to go out and find an event local to you. I see new ones popping up all the time. There's a few that I go to in Ohio as well that are really great. Other than the fact they're in Ohio, I have a great time at them. So yeah, check out, find a local event and hang out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will say I do recommend people, especially if you're a content creator online, to go out to one of these events, as you say, Dustin, just to see actual people. That's not just text on Twitter or something, because it's very different compared to what you'll read most times. People just, when you run into normal people, whether it's out, like if you go, like I'll go places sometimes and someone will say, hey, I like your show. Like you, I was like, okay, cool. There's normal people you see, but then you see online, it's very bombastic, and people say stuff online that they're not gonna say in person, right? That's not really who they are when they're in real life, right? And I will say, if you can't find a local event like a Too Many Games, like a big convention, if there's a midnight release happening near you for a game you're even mildly interested in, honestly, if you go to that and there's like 10 or 12 people there that have similar interests, you might be surprised. You might strike up conversation and just be like, actually talking to real people about this stuff. So even a midnight release for a game coming up is something maybe worth checking out if you're having a hard time finding a big gaming convention.
Yeah, totally. For Keep It Up for me this week, I'm going to give it to, I don't think I've ever said this, but Keep It Up Ubisoft. Thank you for releasing Beyond Good and Evil. I'm really happy they put it on modern platforms, a game that I missed the boat on. I always celebrate companies when they put older games on modern hardware for more people to experience it, especially when I can do it legally and for a reasonable price. So yes, good job there. Thank you very much. I'll take that all day. Everyone else take notes as well. Every company take notes.
Oh yeah, how much was that game?
$20.
That's pretty good. No, that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's a fair price for what it is. Yeah, $20, dude, all day. No big deal. Especially for a cult classic game like that, I'm very happy to support it. All right, let's hear from the audience. This is from Jacob Miniola. It's hard for me to say. Hey, Summon Signers, first time writing in. I wanted to send a keep it up to Atlas for porting Shin Megami Tensei 5 off the stinky Switch. It runs much better on PS5, plus the new Vengeance arc makes the game so much better in terms of story. Also, Metaphor ReFantazio is going to be a banger. True, Jacob, on all accounts, yes.
Yeah, I said I would check it out when it came to other platforms, and now it's out, and I haven't done that yet. So
yeah, well, you're going to be a dad soon, so you're immune to all criticism.
Oh, yes, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
Is that true?
You got like a good year or two.
Yeah, John's got some kids, so totally immune.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What's that?
He was saying you're totally immune to all criticism when you have a kid. So
Oh yeah. You can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
do you have a Steam Deck, Dustin?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, that's the move for new parents. I'll tell you that now, because I understand the Switch is getting a bit long in the tooth. Obviously, the technology for that is games don't exactly run the best on it now. But
yeah,
Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance ran really well on the Steam Deck. I think with the OLED model, I would actually get close to 90 frames per second at times with it. So if you cap it at 60, it looks great, and it's the OLED model, so visually it looks great. The colors pop off and everything. So that's actually a good one to pick it up on. I know your PC was having some weird issues, but if you got a Steam Deck, tell everyone out there, SMT5, it's a good pickup there.
I was telling Holly last night that I'll pack my Steam Deck when we go to the hospital. And I was like, if there's that like long waiting period where you're starting labor, but you're not like giving birth, maybe I can do a quick run of Sekiro. Let's see if I can I beat the whole game while she's in labor.
Yeah.
Little challenge. Speed run.
Yeah, that's a nice little speedrun challenge. Yeah, before
she
your
doesn't
son's
need my
born.
attention.
No,
she's just fine. So little Sekiro, no problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like you don't even need to be there, Dustin.
Dude, that's why I keep saying it.
Just go hang out with Brandon.
Hang out with Brandon, or I was saying like in Mad Men, there's the scene where he's having one of his kids, and it was like during a time where men weren't in the room. So he's like hanging out in the lobby, smoking cigs and drinking bourbon. I'm like, dude. Born in the wrong era. That would be great. So
that'd be awesome. Will Hahn wrote in, "Hey boys, hope you three are doing well. I just want to give a quick keep it up to the PlayStation Plus extra membership tier. I know the premium tier gets a lot of shit for not having enough classics, but if you're a stranger to a lot of PS4 titles, both AAA and indie, I think the extra tier is a great middle ground. I recently just started playing a little puzzle-based walking sim called Call of the Sea, which I've never heard of, and I'm quite enjoying it. If it wasn't for the extra tier, I probably would have never even known it existed. Keep up the great work, Brad. You're a suave dude and a great host. Cheers." Well, thanks.
Dang, suave.
Whoa, dude. I'll take that. Will, thanks, man. All right, let's see. This is from Denny Would Never. "What's up, Slitty Summoners? This week, I wanted to give it a keep it up for Xbox, or to Xbox, for publishing their games anywhere and everywhere. It's better for the consumers and for developers, allowing them to showcase their art to a wider audience. If the only remaining Xbox exclusive is Game Pass, then by all means, let those parallel stick players help keep the prices down. Thanks for all you do, and a special shout out to John for the daily news updates. Have a I promise my name isn't Sora kind of day." Definitely a Duke listener there.
Yeah.
Just taking shots at the Wii U. Is that what we're doing?
No, he's taking shots at the
parallel
PlayStation,
sticks, right? The Wii U. Obviously, that's what they're taking shots at now. It's fine.
Oh, yeah. I was like, did the Wii U have parallel sticks? I was like, wait.
But it had the buttons below the stick.
It did.
And that was a little odd. But
on the gamepad? The gamepad, horrible.
Yeah.
I hate the gamepad. I have to keep mine plugged in whenever I play it, or it just dies. I've like never had Nintendo hardware that's been so shitty compared to the Wii U. The Wii U was by far the worst Nintendo hardware I've ever had. It's crazy. All right, boys. Recently, Capcom put out a new demo that I just quickly wanted to talk about. Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. A new Capcom game coming out this month, actually. They put out a demo, so I just checked it out. I was very curious about this game. I remember when they revealed it, I thought it was Onimusha for a second, and I got very excited. Then I was like, oh, never mind. It's just a new thing. But regardless, new IP, very cool. I'm down. Dustin, you actually played this too, so I'm curious what you thought about it. So Kunitsu-Gami is a very strange game, and it's like almost like a tower defense escort game mixed with action combat. So basically, just how the game works is you play as this character with the katana. I'm not sure what their name is. I don't remember. It's been a hot minute. But essentially, you have this character with you, this maiden or priestess. I'm not sure what she is. You have to escort her to a demon gate for her to cleanse, essentially, of demons. And it's usually in these stages how it's broken up. It's not only so you can move around in real time, of course, and hack demons that come through the gate. Everything goes on a cycle. So you have a day cycle, and once it gets night, demons come out, and you have time to prepare in the day for your attacks. So how you prepare is there are villagers scattered throughout the area you can rescue from these demon things, and you can assign them specific roles. Like one of them was a hatchet guy, I guess, or a lumberjack kind of thing, where they had an axe so they could melee attack these demons. And there's one where you could have this priest guy who would put out a shield and it would slow down enemies in this field, which is very, very, very helpful. And later on you can get an archer. And you assign these roles to these guys on this field, and essentially you place them on the field to help you deal with these enemies. And at a point when it gets night, demons start to come through the gate. You have to protect the priestess as these demons are coming through. And eventually, when the day comes, she eventually moves very slowly towards this gate, and it kind of repeats till you get to the end. I actually thought this game was kind of cool. I was surprised actually by it. I was like, oh, this is very simple at first. I was like, I don't know if there's enough here. But then as you progress more through it, I was like, oh, there's something about this game that's kind of addicting. I don't know what it is exactly, Dustin.
Yeah.
But
it's
maybe the idea, like getting these guys, like setting out your units, then upgrading them slowly at your like little base you get to in between missions. I thought was really cool. Like getting new perks for them, stronger attacks, more health. What do you think it is though, Dustin?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is when I downloaded this demo, I remember I saw the initial reveal trailer, but I couldn't remember like what kind of game it was. So when I saw it on the PlayStation Store, it's like, oh, this is a Souls-like, just from like,
yeah,
this is another, Japanese era or Japanese like more ancient whatever. And when I booted it up, I was like, oh, cool, this is something different. And it's funny how now, obviously, I love Souls-like, and I love modern gaming, but we have kind of fallen into like 4 or 5 genres, or at least I find to tend myself to playing these games. And so it's like, this is like pretty big budget from Capcom, and it's pretty original. And so that alone, like a very original idea being executed in this fashion was just really awesome and refreshing. But I wasn't sure either, Brad. When I started it, I was like, this is cool. I don't know if I like this though. But as you said, when you start to play more of the levels, you start to realize more of the strategy. So you mentioned the goddess that you have to get from point A to point B. And the way you have to do that is you have to feed her these orbs or something. You don't really feed her orbs, but you have to use your orbs in order to make the path. And so you have to start to think about like, okay, well, how far is she going to walk during this day cycle? And can I get her to the end point by the end of this day cycle? And if not, would it be better to spend those orbs on my different characters or whatever? Mm-hmm. So there's also in some of the later levels specific points that she can stand on that she gets some kind of buff. So it's like, okay, well, maybe it's better to just have her hang out here, even though I have orbs to spend to push her further, but I'm not going to get all the way there. So I might as well just leave her here for a bit. And it definitely gets a lot more difficult because the different demons or yokai, whatever comes out of these gates, some of them get a lot more elaborate. Like some of them kill them, they kind of create a bomb that explodes. So you have to make sure it's like, okay, when I kill them, I got to slash them again and push them away from the priestess character to make sure she doesn't take damage or anything like that. And there's also levels. I don't know if you played the whole demo, Brad.
I did till it said like, thanks for playing. I know there was a level that unlocked after it. Yeah. But I didn't play that one.
There's like a boss stage as well that is purely designed around just fighting one boss while also protecting the priestess. So I thought that was cool. And so yeah, I played the demo. I played the after thanks for playing level as well. And I was like, man, this is cool. It's original. It plays really well. It's unique. And it's not a full price game when it comes out. It's $50. And so I was like, dang, this is coming out pretty soon. I think this is one I'm going to check out, being that, I'm not actively taking care of a baby at the moment, but I think I'll be able to check this out a little bit. And if not, when we get home, I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, there's like a simplicity to this game, but it's still satisfying. You know, your attacks, you don't have like a ton of moves you're doing right now. you have like a couple combos, and you have like the special move. Like one of them was like a fire slash you could do, and it was good against like some of the bosses or something like that. And another one I used was like a buff for the guys around me, which I thought was cool. But even just some of I'm curious, Dustin, how the map is going to evolve over time, because there's a couple points later on, like there's some high ground or something like that, and you can put an archer up there so they can like, pick guys off and not get hit, and they're better at flying enemies, dealing with those. So I'm curious about how all that kind of stuff will play out as you get further throughout the game. But I agree with you. Just a cool little game. Just cool. It's like, oh, this is very unique, I guess. Very unexpected from Capcom, but I'm happy to see it.
Yeah. So I think it was the level after the one that you didn't play. There's points where you have to decide which path on the map that you want her to walk. So you can kind of look and see like, okay, well, which strategic points does each path have, something like that. And then in addition, one of them, there's 2 gates that show up. And so one of the gates will alternate. So you have to kind of change up your strategy each time. So that level after the thanks for playing is much more involved.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool. I'm also happy there's going to be an Okami collaboration. So
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's sick.
So I'm very excited about that. John, have you seen any of this? Are you curious about it at all?
Yeah, I saw the demo when they announced that. And I think the thing that threw me off about this game is when they started showing it, everyone came up with different games they thought it was, and then it just ended up being an original game from Capcom, which is cool. I like seeing them try new original stuff like this that I think they had a hard time explaining what the game was or how it played for a while. So the demo is a good move by them. Just, all right, we're trying to describe it to you, but it's better if you just play it. So here's the demo. This game is going to go into Game Pass, though. So my plan was just to try it there. Just download it, try it there. And if I like it, what I do with Game Pass games like these is usually I'll play it there on Game Pass, and then I'll see if the game comes down in price and pick it up physically as well. And then I just kind of leave it on the shelf, to be honest, as like a collection piece. But in this case, I was going to download it either way. So I haven't played the demo because, to be honest, I already preloaded. I'm just waiting for it to come out. So that's kind of my move right now. That's what it is with Game Pass. It's like I don't even have to make a decision necessarily on if I'm going to buy this or not. I'm just going to download it and I'll check out when it drops. The thing that with this game though, the aesthetic has completely reminded me of like Monster Hunter, and that's whenever I look at it, I think of Monster Hunter for some reason, like old Monster Hunter games.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about the aesthetic. It just reminds me of it constantly when I see it. I'm like, that looks kind of like a Monster Hunter spinoff almost. It's not, but it's just what it reminds me of. So maybe that's what it is. It's original. It's an original IP, original game, but it just reminds me of a bunch of other Capcom games.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I want to say it's RE Engine. It seems like most of their games are nowadays.
Yeah, I feel like they're doing everything they can to work RE Engine into everything.
Of course, yeah. But just wanted to talk about it briefly. It's just a cool little game.
It is RE Engine, yeah.
All right, John. Elden Ring. You've been playing Elden Ring. Me and Dustin have talked about this quite a bit. Let's hear your take.
Shadow of the Erdtree.
Erdtree.
Yes, yeah. I'm playing the DLC. I will say I don't think I'm as big of a Elden Ring fan as a lot of people are. Like, okay, so people like the game. I like the game. I think it's very good. I think when it came out, it was Game of the Year. I do know people question as you mentioned earlier, Dustin, the 96 or whatever on Metacritic. That's come up before on another podcast. You said conference. Okay, yeah. So I don't know if I fall in line with the 96, but I do fall in line with the idea of it is in the 90s. It is one of those kind of games. It is like that generational game that other companies will look at and say, okay, how did they do this? How do we work off of this ourselves to make a game that'll probably come out 7 years from now? So going into Shadow of the Erdtree, I wasn't like overly level. Some people went into this thing, level 250 or something, like super high level. I went into this like level 140 or something. It's like, okay, that'll work. And I get there and I'm getting destroyed by everything. And then I realize I need to get these power-ups. So I'm going around collecting these power-ups, and I have enough to where I am at the final boss of the game now. I believe the DLC. But I have a problem where I don't remember which of these power-ups I've picked up. So even if I look up a guide, I have to go back to each one that they described to find it. Because at this point, I just need to get a little stronger to beat the final, what I believe to be the final boss. Did you guys have played through the DLC and you've completed it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to say who I think it is because that would be spoiling it, obviously. But I did see that the one Twitch streamer spent 60 hours or something on the final boss trying to beat him. I have attempted to fight them 3 times. I got to the second phase the first time. I was shocked. I was like, oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay, cool. This is great. I'm like level 13, 14 with
the fragments. Oh, wow. You're pretty low still. You can go up quite a bit.
Yeah, so I got the second phase, like, all right, cool. So I'm doing damage. Then you kill me immediately. So okay, well, I guess I'll go looking for these fragments. But it keeps doing that thing that Elden Ring was really good at the first time I played through it, which was the sense of discovery in the game is still like incredible.
Top notch.
What they do is they put you in like this cave, these tunnels almost, and they work you through it. You basically, they funnel you without telling you they're funneling you into different areas. You go through like 10 minutes of this dark cave area. And then you come out and it's like the Cerulean Coast, for example. You come out the other side and it just opens up and it's this really nice, vibrant blue. So if you have like on an OLED TV or something, it like really pops. It looks incredible. And they do that so often still in the DLC. It doesn't hit like it did with, when you're first playing the game for the first time, and it'll never hit like that again. But they still come very close with some of these moments. That said, it is one of those games where you just have this love-hate relationship with it, and it keeps happening. Where you think about it when you're gone, when you're not playing the game, when you're away from it, because you're like, I'm gonna show that game. I'll show that, that kind of thing. Yeah. You're like talking to yourself about it, and that's happened a couple of times. But I feel like I've had a harder time with bosses that people say were easy, and then I've had an easier time with bosses that people say were hard.
That's the way it goes every time. Some bosses are easier for other people, some are harder for other people. It doesn't make sense. It's just everyone has those bosses.
Like one of the bosses towards the end of the main path it starts with, I don't know, is that spoiling? It starts with an M.
Well, no, he's the cover. He's the
Mesmer.
So
that's fine.
Mesmer.
No, don't worry. Yeah, don't even worry about that.
I beat them on my 3rd try.
Yeah,
like, that was it. It was like, okay, cool. Wow, that was easy. And then I see people online who are like, I've tried 40 times on this thing and I can't beat them. And there was a boss earlier on in the main path that I was just Bile, the optional boss. I spent a day trying to beat that, and finally I did. But then there are people who are like, "Oh yeah, I just snuck up behind it and poisoned them." That was it. And I was like, "Well, okay. First of all, that's kind of cheap, but they beat it like the 3rd time or something, just doing that. It's like, okay, well, I didn't do that. I ran face first at it over and over again, and you could summon this person to help you.
Yes, Egon.
I killed him.
Oh,
earlier on, he was laying down, and I'm like, "You have some nice armor," and I killed him and took it. So I didn't have them to help me. But yeah, I did the stubborn face first, run at him over and over again. I'm not going to change my armor or weapons or anything. And eventually, I ended up beating him. But it's interesting how people just react differently to these different bosses and have an easier time or have a more difficult time. But it's still good. Elden Ring is still a very good game in this DLC. I can't believe how large the DLC ended up being, because I feel like there's still so much of it I have not seen, even though I'm at the final boss now. Like, I feel like if I just walked away from the final boss, I could spend another 10 hours just walking around looking at stuff.
Yeah, it's a massive expansion, that's for sure. I'm curious, what's been like your favorite boss so far that you fought, or favorite area you've gone through?
Oh, favorite area that I've gone through. I think my favorite boss is Bile. I think that was my favorite boss. I think that was I honestly, especially the music changing with the character or the boss as you get to like the second phase, and it's basically catches on fire and starts erupting stuff around it, and it goes to this really quiet. Oh, like the music is obviously hitting really hard when you're first fighting, and it goes down real quiet, and it's like erupting in flames, and it looks really cool.
Yeah.
And it feels like you should be dying most times when it's swinging or like flying through. But I feel like the hitbox on some of those moves were more fair. So you're able to dodge it, but everything around you is exploding and you're in like the mountains fighting on like the volcano. And so that is probably my favorite boss. And it's an optional one. You can just miss it completely. That I think is my favorite one so far. Favorite area? Honestly, my favorite area is the first one you walk out into. It's something about how
that
you walk out,
field.
You see the tree off in the distance, and like you have kind of the grass and like the gravestones off in the distance, kind of like there is like ghost forms. again, maybe it's just because that's the first thing you see and it kind of hits you as like, okay, this is new DLC for Elden Ring. But I think that just looked really, really cool. It kind of hit you with like that, hey, this is like a vast area you're going to walk around in right now. And it had that sense of it. Kind of had the same sense with Ghost of Tsushima when you first went out into like the open area. Yeah. It kind of felt like that, where it's like, okay, yeah, this looks really good. And now I'm going to probably go die like 100 times. So
what kind of build you been messing around with?
I did the typical bleed build with the katana. I feel like most people use that. I don't
Bleed's
think that's like
good,
original. Yeah. So I have like the River's Blood.
Rivers of Blood, yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that one. But then as I was going through and I get to go up the mountains and stuff and fight Bile, I end up with this dragon sword that I found that I moved up to +10, and that's the other one I've used. So I've actually had pretty good success with it. The secondary attack that uses some of your magic, it just shoots like a blade at whoever's in front of you. So against dragons, it did a lot of damage. So I killed all the optional dragons moving up to Bile that way with that sword.
Oh, you're using like the great katana, right? It's like a big katana almost.
It's a big, it's called dragon something. It has dragon in the name. I have to look at it, but you get it from one of the sub bosses on the way.
Yeah,
fighting all those dragons.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. It shoots like that red beam out, right?
Yes. So I've been using that. Cool. And you know, you summon Mimic, and the Mimic will have it too, and it's strong against dragons. So it's helped to melt some of them. But again, Bile was a whole thing with that. So and then sometimes I swear my Mimic is just stupid. Sometimes, sometimes it gets lost almost. Yeah. It's really funny.
It's very powerful, but yeah. Sometimes
I feel like it was really powerful when Elden Ring first came out. I think
it was. Yeah, they nerfed it. It was too powerful. Well, in my opinion, it's still too powerful. Yeah. If it's the only one people are using, I feel like then it's too powerful. But
dude, my Mimic against the last boss, my Mimic. So you can put, I don't remember what the name of the item is, but there's basically like a one-off heal.
Marika's Blessing.
And if you have that equipped, your Mimic can use it. I was finding that every time the Mimic, he wouldn't even get hit. And he's just taking a sip.
Just chugging
that down. I'm like, bro, you thirsty? Because you haven't even been hit yet. I've been taking all the damage. So sometimes the Mimic, a little unreliable, but it's been interesting with the Mimic and the DLC bosses overall. I mean, especially the last boss, that a lot of solo purists that played the whole game without a Mimic are busting it out on this last boss, because
I had to, yeah.
It's so hyper aggressive, you know.
You just need something to pull aggro for a minute.
Yeah, having some aggro pulled is very helpful. Yeah, definitely. A second to breathe, a second to heal, or whatever.
Yeah,
it's all
a
it
lot
takes.
of the bosses. I feel like a lot of the bosses are designed with the idea that Mimic would be in play, because they have so many area effect attacks where it'll just hit everything around it.
Yeah, Spirit Ashes are a big part of the game, so I'm sure they've balanced the bosses with that in mind, because most players do use them, so it would make sense to do that to me.
I did want to ask, you guys are big Souls fans. Obviously, I see the Elden Ring poster in the background there. What did you think about the conversation of a pause button?
Oh, I heard about this, but I didn't actually see like the actual discussion.
Well, it went off the rails over some terminology Microsoft used, but really it boiled down to if Souls games should have a pause button in it.
Oh, I mean, I don't care if it has a pause button. I think if you're playing online, though, there should be no pause button.
No, it's to me, it's like, if you're playing Call of Duty offline versus online, you're not going to have a pause button.
If you're playing I guess, like, there's so many points in the game where you can, like, just pause and get up and leave. Mm-hmm. I guess the only time you really can't do that is if you're literally in the middle of a boss fight. But I feel like if I'm going into a boss fight, usually I'm like, okay, nothing matters for however long I'm in this. I'm making sure no other obligations come up. But like, I don't have kids, so I don't really I know that's a totally different thing when you're a parent. But I mean, if they put in a pause button, I don't. You know,
it's funny. One of my kids asked me why it didn't have a pause button.
Yeah, sure.
I was playing
most games do.
they're playing Mario Soccer and like, you help me because they can't hit the button fast enough when a charge shot hits the goalie, so I have to hit the button for him and then hand it back to him. And they're like, you pause the game? No, I can't. Well, why doesn't it have a pause button? I don't know. I'm not really sure. I can't answer that. So
just the way it is.
I feel like I'm okay. Like, it doesn't bother me whether it has a pause button or not. But I think, as you said, Brad, and I don't know, maybe I'll feel differently when I have a kid, but if something comes up during a boss fight that I would need to pause it, I feel like even if it had a pause button, that run is basically forfeit because your focus is and your train of thought during a boss
gone. Yeah,
it's got to be, dude. Some of these bosses you got to be locked in. So if you're pausing during it and going in, whatever it is, letting your dog in, helping your kid, whatever. By the time I came back, I'd be like, man, this run's ruined anyway. So I don't mind if it has one, and maybe in the open world it would be helpful for a lot of people. Cool, whatever. It wouldn't bother me, but I don't know if it would be as useful as some people think during some of these boss fights.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I pause.
I'm just thinking about
like pause in a boss. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you pause in a boss fight, like let's say the boss is in the middle of attack and you pause and you come back, like you're fucking dead. You're not gonna be able to react to that shit. You're just
no. Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think of like Sekiro. We had a pause button there in Sekiro, and I don't think I ever like paused. I'm trying to think of any obvious times where I paused in the middle of a boss fight, like you're saying. Usually you go in.
I never.
You're like, I'm going for it. With
if someone's like,
I'm going for it.
If something comes up, I'm like, give me 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds. Then I'll come out and help or whatever. Yeah,
just give me 30 seconds. Tell the crying baby.
Yeah. 30 seconds.
Give me 30 seconds, baby. Please.
Yeah. 30 seconds, baby. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't care if they add a pause button. Whatever. It's not a big deal to me. I'm not like, I don't think they like need to add one, but I'm not going to be mad if they add one. Just like
people seem extremely adverse to the idea of a pause. Like there are people who are like really against it, and I'm trying to think of. Like I was trying to think if there was a reason like it would cheese parts of the game or something. Like I'm trying to come up with a reason.
I'm not quite sure. Yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear people's takes on it. Not that I'm like against it. I'm just curious because I don't really know the reason. I guess maybe the only thing is like they don't want to change the devs' intention with the game because the devs clearly haven't put one in.
With from games in general, it's become more and more. Where I feel like at times there could be a good suggestion for the game, but like the fan base that is really, really adamant about it will just say no because the FromSoft vision is like perfect, basically. I don't know if this has come up a lot online, but I've noticed that where other people are very, very averse to any kind of change for it, and they believe that FromSoft just has it all 100% figured out.
No, I mean they don't have it figured out. They'll tell you they don't have it all figured out. Like when Elden Ring first came out, there were no markers on the map telling you where an NPC was. Now you can look at the map and see like, oh, there's an NPC here or stuff like that. That was not in the game when it came out originally. So they've definitely added small quality of life things like that. So they do that throughout their games, but we'll see. They just might take a little bit to get there. Maybe a true pause button might just take a little bit longer, but I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of FromSoft fans, I mean, you and I, Brad, being huge FromSoft fans, but some of them is like there's the whole like get good mentality, and we joke about it, obviously. But I thought it was really funny when just a few weeks ago in an interview, Miyazaki was talking about playing through Elden Ring, and he was like, "Yeah, I suck, and I use every possible thing I can to make the game easier for me." And it's because there was a huge conversation, and there has been since Elden Ring came out. It's like, oh, well, if you used a mimic, then you're not really playing the game. You're not really, this isn't really what's intended. It's like, no, anything that's in the game is intended.
Yeah, it's fair play.
And don't get me wrong, there are cheeses that probably aren't intended, like different things that's like, oh yeah, we got to scale that back a little bit.
Yeah,
but
of course.
No, it's like the creator of the game, that's his chosen method to play the game. And it's like, yeah, it's nothing against people that want to challenge themselves. That's cool. But it has always been interesting, the FromSoft fans, that, as John was saying, that they're like the perfect vision. They've got it. The one thing I will say, the pause button doesn't bother me, but when the should FromSoft put an easy mode debate, which comes up every time they release anything, that's the thing. It's like, if they chose to, then yes, I support it. If they choose, say, hey, we want to put an easy mode, we're going to design the game around it. Great. That's fine. But the like demanding of it, saying like, oh, well, it'd be so much more accessible. It's like, let them design the game the way they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And then not every game is going to be for everyone. And there's plenty of games that I'm too dumb to play when it comes to like certain like hardcore strategy games. And I don't demand that they make an easy mode for me. So
yeah. I don't think they will either, Dustin.
For Elden Ring, isn't the idea that the game design of Elden Ring is you can either play it as difficult as you want, or you can go out into the world, find all kinds of cool stuff, you can over level in the game. It's it's not easy, but you can do it because it's open world and people find ways to get a bunch of experience, and you can go out and find these, which I'll probably do. I'll go find these power-ups, and if I can't find the last 8 of them or something, I'll just look up a guide. All right, whatever, where are they? And then just go pick them up. That's the idea, right? Is it's not as simple as a menu option for normal, easy, hard. It's just you go out, you design your character specifically for this enemy, and it makes it easier. Or you don't use Mimic, you go in as level 1, and you don't even wear any armor. You can do it how you want, right? I thought that was like the idea of FromSoft. So I don't know. It does having just a basic menu system of easy. The character you're playing as is now ultra buffed, and the enemy you're fighting is weak as anything. It doesn't seem as, I guess, creative from their design philosophy to figure it out that way.
No, it's not. They want everyone to come at the game at the same base level, and to use whatever tools or anything in the game to help them overcome their challenges. That's how they want you to play their games. They put stuff in the games to make them easier for you. So you just got to use the tools that the game gives you if you need help. And there's nothing wrong with using them. They're in the game for a reason. So you should use them if you want to. So I don't think having a difficulty slider will make the game any better. Probably, in fact, it made it worse.
Are there any bosses or even enemies that you fought at all in Elden Ring or Shadow of the Erdtree that you stopped and thought to yourself was cheap?
You mean where I'm like, oh, that boss was cheap?
Or like this mechanic that they use is cheap, this move they use is cheap?
It's usually not that. It's usually like a visual thing of like the camera angle is bad at this spot. And like I'm against the wall and the camera just gets kind of fucked up. And I'm like, God damn it, I can't see anything what's happening. Like that final boss, there's a lot of like flashing lights and hair going on where I'm like, I just don't know what the fuck just happened right there. I couldn't really tell. So I died there. Right. It's not usually the mechanics they're doing anything like that, because you can't overcome those. But it's just like, for me, sometimes like I just need to get proper spacing, I guess, here and be more aware of my surroundings.
There was a move, I think it was with General Gauss.
Oh, the hitbox on the boar guy?
Yeah, there's a charge.
Yeah. There was a bad hitbox, yeah.
I was like, what is going on with this hit? I felt like I dodged it, and it's like he still hit me even though he was past me. I was really confused on that.
Yeah, I think they're addressing that.
And I saw people bring it up, and they're like, no, you just gotta get better at dodging. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if
it's like you can, but it's like, well, you shouldn't have to get that much better at it. Where instead of like getting like from having like all you got to like, let's say it's like a scale from 1 to 100. All you got to do is get to a 75 to dodge it. But with stuff like that, it's like, well, you got to be at a 95 to dodge this. It's like you got to be pretty much just about flawless on it. So, but like they've had some bad hitboxes in the past that they've patched out and worked on. So
I think it was interesting that it was brought up, but then get like I said, a lot of the FromSoft diehards say that it's a mechanic you just have to work around. But I feel like you could basically say that about any game then, if that's the case, that has a mechanic like that. Like basically there would be no criticism at all around games. So that could be like the default response.
Yeah, I think it's important to criticize things that need work also. I think FromSoft is such a weird example with all their games because they get extremes from both sides usually. People overprotective about it in a lot of ways, and people who are like gunning for it, essentially trying to pick apart any flaw. So you definitely get that with all their games, and we will continue to get it as exhausting as it is. I can't wait for the next game to come out and people to complain about difficulty again or needing an easy mode.
Oh, it'll happen. Yeah, it'll happen.
Because it'll never stop.
They say they're still not. Miyazaki said he still hasn't made the perfect fantasy.
His ideal RPG. Yeah,
hasn't made it.
Oh yeah, and they got multiple teams going right now, so whatever their next game is. But that seems to be From Software's game design core, is they like challenging games and overcoming that feeling. So I'm sure that'll continue throughout. Things could change, but it seems that's where they're at right now.
I wonder where you go from Elden Ring.
You can scale it back. You could do something completely different. Like, one of the rumors a while ago was it was like a more magic-based RPG, and it was not a completely open world game or something like that. It was a little more scaled back, but
you think they can go?
I'm sure there's gonna be more Armored Core.
They've done an open world Elden Ring. Can you go? Do you have to build off that open world concept still, or can you go back to the linear?
They could do something smaller if they want from scale, I think. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be an Elden Ring 2 or another open world game. I'm sure it's just going to happen down the line anyways, but I want to say they have like 2 or 3 teams doing stuff. So you're definitely going to get a lot of smaller, probably example games. Like, I mean, Armored Core is not open world at all. It's just all mission based. You'll get more games like that. From Fantasy RPG, I think Fantasy RPGs going forward, I don't think will always be open world, because that is a huge task and it does take a very long time to do that. So we'll see. It's like, do you know? Hopefully we get Sekiro 2, Dustin, or successors.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. Get another Sekiro. I'm thinking of Elden Ring, and they reported that it sold 25 million copies.
Yeah,
and I do think the open world aspect of that is a big reason that it's.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I mean, 100%. At this point, they can kind of call their shot. Bandai Namco will line up and publish anything for them, but I try to figure out what the next level is for them after Elden Ring, like for the big project. You're mentioning other projects will do, but like the big one where they're like, all right, this is our flagship title for the next generation or something.
The crazy thing about that company is they can literally do anything they want, and people want it. Any publisher would die.
I couldn't believe Armored Core sold as well as it did already. Like that franchise has never sold well, and all of a sudden it comes out and it sells incredible.
Yeah, they're like From Software is like on top of the world right now. So anything they come out with usually is going to be sell pretty well. It seems like not Elden Ring numbers, of course, all the time, but probably pretty successful for them. Which is great. Yeah. What do you think, Dustin? What do you think they're going to be cooking next? Their next thing they're going to be chasing, their next goal?
Well, I think that they're definitely, I don't know if it's Elden Ring 2 or whatever. I think we will get the spiritual successor or a direct successor to Elden Ring for sure. Because as you guys mentioned, Miyazaki was like, I haven't cracked the code yet. I haven't done it, which is so exciting to hear someone of his level in terms of respect as a game developer be like, no, I'm not done yet, which is great. He also in an interview was talking about how he wanted From Software, or not wanted, but From Software was going to start introducing other directors into the play more, which they already have, because he was only the main director on Armored Core at the beginning, and then it was kind of handed off. And same with Sekiro as well, that it wasn't just his project, but he was saying how he wants there to be other From Software projects that he has almost no involvement in, because he was saying that sometimes his input, he felt, had a negative impact on the design of the game. So that's something that I'm very curious in, is just seeing FromSoft make games outside of Miyazaki. So that'll be cool. But I wonder if we're going to continue to see like big project, smaller project, big project, smaller project, because they have 2 teams. I mean, they released Armored Core just a year after Elden Ring. So I'm guessing we're going to wait a year or 2 now before whatever the next project is. I would imagine whatever their next big RPG is going to be a lot further away than that. But yeah, man, I'm keeping the dream alive for Sekiro 2, or even just a spiritual successor, something that is so combat focused that's not an RPG. I would love that.
Yeah, I would love their take on just like an action game, how they would approach that.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting. But Miyazaki can't direct everything for how many games they want to be doing. It just doesn't make sense, especially when he's like the president of that company as well. Yeah. The man can only work so much. So yeah, we don't know what they're gonna be doing in the future, but I'm down for whatever, because they don't miss. They haven't missed since Demon Souls, so keep on going. All right, boys. You know what? let's do a little retro talk here because both of you guys are both into the retro scene. We talked about it a little bit, and I've been getting into it a little bit more. But as I'm more curious about it as someone who's just getting into it more so, what are the tips you guys got? I want to know right off the bat for someone getting into retro collecting. Like Dustin, I know you shared that website for me where it kind of shows you the price charting. Yeah, that's it. It shows the listings and stuff like that. So that was a nice tip to get an idea we should be paying. But like, what's something you should be looking out for? Like one thing I had a question about, it was like, do you haggle with people or stuff like that?
It depends. It really depends on the situation and what you're dealing with. I would say like out of too many games, like as John mentioned on Sunday, that is the day that absolutely that a lot of vendors there, like they would rather sell something than take it home. And so that's where you can kind of work some deals out. But I don't know, game store owners are less likely, I would say, not that they're not going to. The place I go, since I go there consistently and I almost never haggle with him, we worked out a little bit of a deal on Tron Bonne, but that was kind of a different scenario. But
right.
But yeah, it really depends. Like at yard sales, I will, especially if you see a game that someone's selling for definitely less than it's worth. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna haggle with someone about that. But I don't know, John, and I'm curious, John, to throw this over to you too. A lot of your channel is built around retro stuff, and you have a huge technical, backbone, I would say, which I think is super cool. I just watched your video on the Game Boy Micro, the one that you got and put a reshell on, and that was cool. So what do you think about either tips or, the haggling, whatever?
Well, I think if you're going to haggle, like if you're outside at a flea market, basically if you're talking to a person and you're looking at a game and you're standing on dirt, like outside, you can haggle. I would haggle. Even if the game's low, I would haggle immediately. But you're right, Dustin, if you're inside at an establishment and there's AC and you're on nice carpeted ground, then you're going to probably do a lot less haggling. That's just kind of the way it goes. And also you're paying for the fact that the store will be there tomorrow if there's a problem and you have a receipt, that kind of thing. But that said, you could still find some places. Like around me, there's a place called Second and Charles, and they do like books and like music and movies and video games, and it's all secondhand. So people trade them in, they put them out on the shelf, and I can find some deals there. But what I like to do is, for Too Many Games, for example, I tend to go there looking for lower to mid-tier stuff, especially lower end stuff. And the reason I do that for like the collection I have here for GameCube as an example, is because if you find Madden like 04 to whatever, it ends up costing more money to ship it than it does to buy the thing. So for building out the collection, a lot of the lower tier stuff, I will spend time at the convention looking for. Also, people aren't looking at that. They're looking at the big several $100 pieces. That's what they go there for. So a lot of times you can bundle together lower end PS2, GameCube, PS1, whatever, and sort of work out a deal. So many times I'll go and I will stack different games, and I can actually get it to where they'll take basically one of the games and make it free, essentially. And that's what I'll try to do. So I'll look for stuff like that at those events, because when you get into those really expensive games, Brad, you're basically making an investment. Let's be real. You're making an investment.
Totally.
So you have to go into that thing thinking this game is going to have to look perfect or I'm passing on it. Like there are people who will just settle for chewed up game cases or manuals because it's there in front of them. But just understand that next year, more people are going to show up with that game again. So you're going to see it a lot, right? And Ryan was doing this a lot. He's looking for boxed Pokemon games, like the original boxed Pokemon games. And if there's even a crease on that thing, he passes. And it's because it's $400. And it's like, well, I'm not going to, it's creased. But that I think is another thing is in the retro game stuff is I wouldn't quote unquote settle unless they're willing to start taking money off the top for their games. And I would just, pick something you like and that you'll enjoy having on the shelf and you might even play. That's a good thing, to play the game when you buy it. Because I feel like now people are just buying the games and they're grading them, and that just has damaged the market. But graded games have damaged the market at this point. When we were at Too Many Games, heritage auction, I guess, there, Dustin.
Oh yeah, I saw your picture.
Yeah,
that was nice.
We can take a picture out in front of their booth most years if we can. This is like a funny thing. So if you're unaware, Brad, I don't know if you've seen this online, graded games.
Yeah.
So they seal it in plastic, they put a number on it, and that's it. And somehow that spikes the value 10,000%. Still trying to figure out why that happens, but it does. And it basically removes the game from circulation. And I don't know who's buying. I don't really know who's buying these games for that kind of money. At one point, Halo 2 graded at like a 9 was $1,500. Like, who's? Wow. I don't know who's buying that. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there was weird. The whole scandal. Carl Jobs has a video about this, about how there was some insider trading of video games where there were deals being made in order to artificially inflate the market, where it was like $1 million or more. I'm trying to remember, for Mario 64 sealed and graded.
What?
Yeah, absolutely. But and what's interesting is that in that video, there's multiple videos about it. There are people that aren't into gaming that were seeing this going on, and they took the bait where they're like, oh, I can buy up these graded games for this, and it's like a stock where they're buying it in hopes that the value will go up. Thankfully, overall, the graded game market has started to crash, where people are realizing like, oh, this is really something is not right here. But it's a shame, because it did a disservice to the entire market, where there's, a news station or local news that's like, Mario 64 sells for $1 million, and grandma sees that. And then she's like, oh, well, I have all of these, my kids' old games. And so when I go to sell them, the value goes up. And so, not that it's like we're trying to rip off anybody that is selling their old game collection, but it had an effect on the market where everything started to go up. And I think that some of that is natural, of course. It's that millennials now who grew up with this stuff have money, and they want to buy back their childhood, especially during COVID, when everyone's thinking about dying all the time. They're saying like, hey, I want to, dude. So they're thinking about dying, and the government is sending them money. That it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get back into my old games. And so, sure, some of it's natural, but yeah, heritage auctions, no thank you. And very annoying.
Let me ask this, Brad. Which, if you're looking at retro game stuff, is there a system you have in mind, like that you're thinking that's kind of the one I want to collect for?
No, not necessarily. I'm not really at the point where I'm like, I want to collect specifically for this system. I just kind of want to buy stuff to play that I never really played before. Like, I never had a Dreamcast, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna probably buy a Dreamcast sometime in the future. Maybe I would like a Sega Saturn, because I never played anything on that before. I'm not so much collecting and like, I want this specific collection, just stuff I kind of want to play that I never really have.
I mean, I'd also recommend getting some sort of video solution for it then that's more universal. So people will buy like a retro tank just because it's easy. You just plug in AV on one side and then it outputs HDMI, because unless you do get if you get a nice CRT, then you're set. But it's getting harder to find those, because you'll buy the CRT for $40, then it's $100 to ship it or something. And it's like, here's hoping the UPS doesn't football the thing into the back of the truck, So that's the other thing is that. But Dreamcast, that's a good one to collect for if you can start. The games have gotten a little pricey for it, but the Dreamcast still looks awesome. Like the VGA output for it looks incredible still.
Yeah, I'm just more so interested in just games I missed the boat on a lot of them. So that's where I'm at right now. I mean, the Zelda 3DS thing I just want selfishly. Like, I don't need a 3DS, but I just want that. But most of the other stuff I'd think about collecting is stuff I actually want to play. I'm not really into collecting and just putting it on my shelf kind of thing. I'm more interested in like actually playing them. Yeah. And I just wanted a TV to play in like the way it used to be played. I think it's really cool getting to play old games on the old hardware, how they used to be played and look the way they used to look. That's what I'm more into.
You can't beat the responsiveness of a good CRT.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For that, I got to find in like somewhere local, because I do worry about like shipping and stuff like that. I'm like, some asshole's just going to throw this thing in the back of a truck and break it.
You might be able to still get one on Facebook Market. That's where, before I had this one, I had a few that I got on Facebook Market for free. People want rid of them because depending on where you are around here, you have to pay to get rid of them. You can't just throw them away. You have to take them to an electronic recycling place. And sometimes it can be like 80 or $100 depending on how big it is.
Jeez.
So people sometimes, depending on where you are happy to get rid of them. I have noticed more people selling like consumer CRTs, whereas opposed they used to just be free. It used to be that it was just like PVMs, so like production grade monitors that people were really selling. But now, dude, I mean, shout out Digital Foundry. They're great. I love them. But I think that their coverage of CRT stuff, them in My Life in Gaming, people have started like, oh, okay, these have value to a certain group of people, and they're going away. So there are a lot more sales of them going on. But yeah, the RetroTink, I need to get one of those, John. I don't have one currently. Normally, I don't want to play on my OLED TV, and if I do, I have Eon. I have their GameCube adapter, which is awesome. So that also is a good solution too. If there's like if you want to just emulate one system, or not emulate, but hook up to your TV just one system, you can usually get some decent adapters.
Try to get closer to a CRT. What I'll do is I have a monitor that I have set up with like a really low refresh rate. You can get them for like 1 millisecond refresh rate, and then run something like a RetroTink to that. I think I have a 2X that has minimal latency, so it is closer to the CRT in terms of responsiveness, but it's not. I mean, it's better than an OLED that has a higher refresh rate and stuff, or just latency. So that's usually what I do for those games through the 2X. But they have like a 4K one that is apparently amazing. I don't have that, but there are a lot of options out there when it comes to just video out universally, rather than have to buy an adapter for each system.
Yeah, I think the 4K version is $700.
Oh my God.
It's supposed to be amazing. And I mean, it's a very niche product for a very specific group of people. It's supposed to be awesome, but it's pretty expensive. But the other thing, Brad, I want to say is your mentality of quality over quantity is good, because I never set out to collect PS2 games, but when I was going to yard sales pretty consistently, like last summer and the summer before, it's like, oh, well, someone has all these PS2 games. They only want $1 or $2 each. Why not buy all of them? And so now I've like gathered this huge PS2 collection that I don't care about most of it. And so I've thought, I'm like, maybe I should I get rid of these? I don't feel like I should, but I also don't care about them. And having a big collection just for big collection's sake is not ideal.
Sure. Yeah. I just don't want to deal with all the space it's going to create.
Oh,
that
too.
Okay. Well, that's like the main thing. I'm like, But
break
out
I just
one
of those old
I'm
CD books
playing.
and just get them like CD only. Remember those old CD books we used to have?
Oh yeah.
All right.
One more question I had for you guys is, one thing I think about when I'm buying something or looking at a game somewhere, just like a little random place, is like the authenticity of the item.
There you go.
Just making sure, like, is this real actually a thing? Or is this a scam item that someone just fucking made? Like, how do you guys handle that, tackling all that stuff?
Oh, you mean like if you...
Like, if this is like a counterfeit
okay, so
version.
If any game you go to buy, if it's on eBay or an Amazon, the seller should have no problem opening up the cartridge and showing you what's inside. Like, there should be zero.
Okay.
In fact, most of them, if you go online and look up Earthbound, for example, on the Super Nintendo, expensive game, there should be a shot of the cartridge opened already. Like, they shouldn't even be playing around with that. Here's the front, here's the back, here's it opened up, here's the PCB. And it's very easy to spot, like, because there are specific mask ROMs that they used. Whereas another thing I did here and there was people really wanted, like, you bought Mother 3 at the show, Dustin.
Yeah.
Did you see all the other repros that were floating around? Like, and they were very clearly marked repros, ROM hacks, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
So that was
one guy had a table of Pokemon, like probably 30 different Pokemon ROM hacks.
So that was something else I played around with, where you would remove the mask ROM and you'd flash TSOP chips. Like, I did all that. I played around with all the different ROM hacks and stuff, made actual cartridges. It's extremely easy if you opened it up to be able to tell that it's not a real game. And if you are spending any sizable amount of money, that's like the first thing they should be showing you. Or if you ask them, zero problem opening it up. So that's
Okay.
what I'd recommend. If you're like, oh, this thing's $100, they shouldn't have any problem going, okay, here's the PCB.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
don't feel bad asking. In fact, some people have little, I think some people make them even on Amazon. They're for your keys, like keychain you can get that is the little bit for opening up Super Nintendo and Genesis games. So you gotta do it yourself. Oh, yeah, that's an excuse, by the way. Sometimes they'll do. If you go to an event, they'll say, I don't have the tool to open it. First off, they do, because they have to be able to clean them and stuff. They might just be saying that. But then they shouldn't have a problem with you. Oh, don't worry, I got one right here. that shouldn't be an issue. So.
Yeah, you got to be careful. Near where my parents live, near DC, there is a store that sells, they have music and vinyl, and they have games too. But I noticed that they were selling reproduction games, and they were priced above what a repro game is, but below the actual value. And there was no like big sign that said repro on them. And so I don't want to necessarily call this store dishonest, because maybe if someone went to buy them, they would say, hey, just so you know, this is a reproduction cartridge or something like that. But it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth where I'm like, I don't think I'm going to shop here, because there's a level of like somewhat dishonesty. So like, that's a thing too with like too many games. The first thing I'll do at any given stand is I'll go in, and there's certain games that I know what the value should be. And so I'll like look, and it's like, okay, this game should always be this price, and it's twice that. I am actually just going to walk away from this table completely, because, more power to them, I guess, if they can sell games for that. But I'm just simply not interested. And you'll have that at too many any convention. There's always a table that you're like, holy crap, look at how many awesome games they have. How do they have it? And especially like if it's a few days into the convention, you're like, how do they have this many, bangers still? And it's like, look at the price. So there are, unfortunately, just as in any profession, there are swindlers out there that you got to be careful for.
Cool. All right, boys. Let's end the show with some questions and comments from the audience, as we always do in this podcast. If you want to send a question to this show, head over to patreon.com/laststandmedia if you want to support us over there. We appreciate that. Also, I forgot to talk about this. Our live show's coming up. September. What was the date exactly? Was it September 7th?
It's the 6th, because my birthday is the 7th. So
oh shit,
I will be in San Diego on my birthday this year.
Should be yes, cool. We will be there. It's Sacred Symbols versus Defining Duke. It's gonna be a good time. I'll be there. The Sacred Boys, of course, the Duke Boys, and some other people are gonna be there.
Jaffe.
I don't know. I forgot if we said who's gonna be there or not.
Yeah, Jaffe and Hogue.
Yeah. So it'll be a good time. Come on over to that show. It's gonna be fun. All right. This is from Crapton Bacard.
Great.
Hey, Summoners. General question for you guys. Do you keep track of any of the games you play? A spreadsheet, website, or do you just wing it and not bother tracking? A couple years ago, I started getting stressed by my backlog, but then I started pulling all the games I completed into How Long to Beat. It helps me see how much I'm playing and makes me feel better about my gaming when I have the data. Thanks, I'll hang up and listen. I keep a list of the games I've actually completed the year. Not all the games I've beaten or I've played, but the games I've like beaten, rolled credits on, stuff like that. I do that on a website called Backlogged, I think it's called. But I keep track of all that stuff. But in terms of everything I've played, no, that's way too annoying for me to deal with. What about you guys? Do you guys keep lists or anything like that?
I should, but I don't. And because we usually get to the end of the year and we go back and say, okay, how many games did everyone beat? And then I have to go back and remember. So every year when it starts, I go, I'm going to write them down as I go, and I just never do. But you said Backlogged? It's a website?
Yeah. Here, I'll link it in our chat. Make sure this is the right thing. Yeah, this is what I use right now. I've used other stuff in the past, but this is just what I use right now.
Okay, I think I see it. Backlogged.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. Track your personal game collection. All right. Seems easier. Yeah,
a lot of our listeners use this too. But for me, I've tried to use things like this, and honestly, it stresses me out more than anything because the way I feel about it is like, man, so for work, for Last Stand in our scheduling, it requires an extreme level of organization, all the different shows, people involved. And so it's like organization to that level is like work mode for me.
Sure.
And then when it comes to games, it's not that I'm totally disorganized, but it's like, I'm not going to play something that I don't feel like playing because I put it on a list that says, hey, this is in your backlog. You should play this next. Like,
Right.
I gotta just play what I'm feeling at the moment, or else it will become more work-like. And I've already made video games work, so I can't add any more layers of workness to my hobby already.
Yeah. Dustin, I have a list, I think, of some stuff I'm interested in playing just so I don't forget about it, but I'm not like going in an order of like, okay, well, now it's time for this game. I just play whatever the fuck I want. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. Some people are dedicated to their backlog to a degree that they're like hate playing games. And
yeah, I don't ever want to do that.
I've hate played a few games.
I did that a couple times.
Yeah, I think it happens to everybody here and there, but it's there's certain games specifically, and this I guess was more a platinum thing, but I platinumed Final Fantasy 15 and it made me not like that game. And for a while. And now I'm at the point where I think back to it, I can be like, oh yeah, that game was actually pretty sick. But I wish I hadn't done that. So gotta be careful.
Yeah, gotta be careful. Cool.
I did that with Saints Row.
Oh, for like a platinum?
No, just beating it. Me just hate beating a game.
Yeah, that game was not good.
It was not good.
I did not finish it. I was like, okay, I'm out.
Oh, there was a really good moment in the game though, when I don't know if you got to that point where you're on a cruise ship and you bust out the back of the cruise ship on jet skis, and all of a sudden DMX starts playing, and you're like in a gun.
I did not get that far.
And the whole game is glitching out the entire time. It was nice. It was awesome.
All right, this is from the Uncharted Wolf. What's up, Summoners? Awesome to see John here. I know you're a big fan of the Mega Man X games, so I'm interested in hearing what you want from a Mega Man X revival. Would you want them to continue the story or try doing a full-on reboot? Thanks for all you do.
That is a good question, actually, because they kind of, I don't say messed it up, but they got a little out there with like people just don't like X7 and X8, and I understand. Like people don't like Axel, and I get that. You might have to reboot. I feel like if they took, so they did what was the game they did recently? The 2D Ghosts and Goblins.
Ghost Trick? Oh, Ghosts and Goblins, yeah,
they rebooted it.
Yeah.
That's done in RE Engine. And I'm thinking, Mega Man X9, it's not going to look the same as like they did Mega Man 11 recently. It's not going to look like that. They want to do a different art style. I like the idea of them going with an RE Engine take on X9. So it looks maybe a bit more mature. That's the idea of, you had X, which took a more mature tone compared to the original Mega Man games. And it's really funny. I bring this up sometimes. If you ever watch, there was a Mega Man cartoon.
Yeah.
And there was an episode where X came back in time. So there was Mega Man and Mega Man X crossover. And like Mega Man was just no match for anyone from X's timeline. But there was such a different, even in almost the art style and the drawing for the two characters, where it looked like one was a grown up Mega Man, basically. But I feel like they could kind of go a bit darker almost with it. And that's sort of how I take it. But it would still have to be a 2D game. I don't think you would make it 3D. Which then brings up the question that we had even with something like Metroid Dread. Can you target a full price game when it's 2D?
Right.
I feel like if it's high enough quality and it's good, then you can, but that's always going to come up. So I feel like that's the thing Capcom's wrestling with. Even on Mega Man 11, it's like half price. It was like $30 or something when it came out. That's what they're going to have to figure out. But I think they would probably have to reboot it. Just, I don't say the damage they've done with X8, but and leave it in a great place. But they have referenced X9 a couple, even in the recent Legacy collection, they referenced X9. So it feels like they're doing it. I'm just, I'm trying to figure out how they'd go about it. I still think, as someone who's I like the older ones, just stick with that formula, but they might think they have to get a little more creative than they probably need to. I would like to see X9 in some capacity, but with the traditional Mega Man X formula. So maybe a reboot. He goes into hibernation for 100 years and he comes out the other side, and that's the reboot. There you go.
Yeah. I think if they do it, having it be more traditional, like the first, you should try to channel the first 4 at least, the ones that people like the most and resonate with people the most. Then after that, you can get a little more weird, I guess, if you want to. But if you're coming back, play it safe.
You know what's interesting? I almost wonder. So they've remade Mega Man X before. They did it on the PSP.
PSP, yeah.
So they've played around with the idea of remaking some of these games. I almost wonder if they did a full reimagining of it and they took X1 through 4 and just mashed it into one game.
They could do that.
Different enemies going in there, the different mechanics. They reimagine some of the events and they just call it like Mega Man X something or just X or something like that. Maybe that's the path they go, because then they can go after the events of X4 and kind of forget about what happened in X5 and X6 and forward. And then they can kind of make an original game then from that. But that'll give them an idea of where is Mega Man X right now? Like, what kind of position is this entire franchise in? Mega Man 11 was the best-selling Mega Man game of all time, and it sold like 2 million copies. That was it. Mega Man doesn't sell a lot, so I wouldn't mind seeing them maybe try that and just see where the franchise, what kind of health does the franchise have right now.
Yeah, then you can reboot the Legends series. Then you can do that. So
Legends 3, it's out there.
All right, this is from Mars Burrow. Good day. I hope you're all keeping cool on these warm summer days. I've heard Dustin mention it a few times, but how often do you all dig into some of YouTube's tech and retro tech videos? I find many of them very enjoyable, especially compared to some of the other online content. Are there any specific streamers or creatives that you guys enjoy? Take care. Mars from Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, of course, you got to check out John's channel.
Yes.
As I was mentioning, I was just watching his Game Boy Micro video. And if you're someone who enjoys opening up consoles, doing some mods or whatever, just checking things out. I also got a shout out, which he was also at the hotel, John, where we were, is Bob Wolf has an awesome channel for primarily like Nintendo focused, but other stuff too, as far as like retro tech or like new retro tech. So he's great. Trying to think. My Life in Gaming, of course, they got mentioned earlier. They kind of do a bunch of different stuff, but a lot of their stuff is about getting the best possible image from your original hardware, and they're really great for that. So I highly recommend them. There's a bunch. Who else do you think, John, that's in this space?
I'll give a shout out to Macho Nacho. They've done a lot of really cool. They just did one recently that I was looking at the original Xbox. I did all kinds of mods to mine, and I was waiting for, there was a board was being discussed to come out that takes the original Xbox RAM from 64 megabytes up to 256 megabytes. And I've been waiting for this board to come out, and it looks like he got like an early kind of fabrication of it, and it works. You can go up to 256 megabytes, and you can basically rebuild the original Xbox now. You can quadruple the RAM. You can take the processor, change that out completely, so it's like a whole different system now. And the modding scene around the original Xbox is like incredible. So they're kind of modernizing it. They did a whole mod for Halo 2 where if you have the 128 megabyte upgrade, you can run it in 720p now completely. Wow. And it actually looks way better than you expect running on an original Xbox. So they do some really good work there. They play around with all kinds of systems, whether it's restoring them. They at one point got a PS5 dev kit and took a look at that. So they've played around with some stuff, kind of in that sense of let's modify these things. That's what I'm interested in.
Cool. Yeah, I unfortunately don't know a lot about all this kind of stuff. It's something I'm getting into more, so
we'll get you a soldering iron, Brad. We'll get you.
What'd you say?
We'll get you a soldering iron.
Oh my god, yeah. Start soldering, dude. Get into it.
It's a fun world.
All right.
It's a fun world.
Oh yeah, it sounds awesome. All right, the last question is from Wesley. Hey Summoners, with Elden Ring on the list, I wanted to ask you all for your ranking of Soulsborne Ekiro games. I've never heard John's opinion on these games, so looking forward to it. Thanks. Well, John, we can just talk about, I don't know how many you've played, but we could talk about what
Demon
you have
Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 3. I did a little bit of the remaster.
played.
But I remember when Dark Souls first came out on the 360, people were talking about that game constantly when they came in. And it was kind of an, I guess, considered quote unquote unknown at that time. But I remember I dabbled a bit with the remaster. And then Sekiro. I liked Sekiro actually quite a bit. But that people look at that as like it's not the traditional Souls game, I guess.
Right.
Balls button. So it's that's I feel like Sekiro, for me, I'm a big fan of kind of the samurai genre in games, even though it's kind of been overdone a bit right now. But when they mix that in with the Souls format, that I think really resonated with me. But I mean, that's the problem for me. It's a lot of the I feel like the basics that people look at: Bloodborne, Elden Ring, Sekiro, and then Demon Souls is like the ones that I like.
Yeah,
it's like, unfortunately, I don't have that. Oh, Dark Souls 2 was it? That was the one. I don't really know I'm going that far. So I feel like right now though, Elden Ring is probably the number one Souls game for me, which is again, it's what I feel like most people would say currently. Maybe that recency bias even. Although I haven't played Sekiro in it feels like 2 years maybe now. It's been a long time since I played that. Maybe I'll check that out again this year after Elden Ring. I don't know. Does it have you played it recently? Does it feel old now because of Elden Ring?
I played it on my Steam Deck at Too Many Games actually. And I actually found that it was so refreshing because both particularly Lies of P, but also to some degree Stellar Blade, not as much, both are heavy on parry mechanics. And I've always said that I don't think they feel quite right. And then I went back and played some Sekiro and I was like, oh yeah, I feel confident in saying that they don't feel right compared to this game because Sekiro holds up.
It was kind of like a rhythm game almost. Just pairing the blocking. It's like, okay, yep, all right, good. So I haven't played it in a while. Maybe I will go back because I did Stellar Blade, and you're right, the pairing mechanics there. If it maybe doesn't feel as tight as Sekiro, maybe that has aged better than I thought.
Yeah,
but Elden Ring, I guess Elden Ring is the number one. Although again, maybe if they remake or remaster Bloodborne, I might change up a bit. I don't know. I like Bloodborne.
Oh yeah, totally. These things change. Nothing's permanent on these lists.
Yeah.
So fear not.
My list here, Brad, I wrote it out real quick just so I could get it right. I have tied for number one Bloodborne and Sekiro because I feel like Bloodborne is peak art design for From Software and peak story. But Sekiro is peak combat overall. So those are kind of tied in my brain. So that's my number one and two, whatever. Then Elden Ring. Then Dark Souls 3, then Demon Souls, then way low Dark Souls 2. I can't, dude. This might have been 3 years ago where I streamed all the currently available From Software games. I finally played through all of Dark Souls 2. Not into it. I didn't put the original Dark Souls on here. Man, that's tough. I personally don't like Dark Souls. I love the world design and how it's layered and stuff like that. But I feel like it was a step down in terms of combat from Demon Souls.
Sure.
So it feels weird putting it second last on the list, but I think that's where I'm going to put it.
All right. For me quickly, this is tough. I think it's probably Sekiro, probably. I just think that game is so fucking good every time. I don't think it has replay value, not nearly as much as other games, which is a problem. Well, not really a problem, it's just how you look at it. But it's just like a one-time experience. It's just so fucking good and clean. So I'll just put it there for now. But then probably Elden Ring I would put below that, just for the sheer build variety. And I love the open world. Then Bloodborne, I would say. Bloodborne is fantastic. I just think it being stranded on PS4 definitely doesn't help it, especially because it does not run great, that game, in a lot of ways. And I think Chalice Dungeons are kind of a missed opportunity. They're cool, but they're not as good as they should be. Then I'd put Dark Souls 3, then Dark Souls, then Dark Souls 2, I think that's it. I don't think I'm missing anything. But yeah, feels weird putting Dark Souls so
man,
far down, but that's just the way it is. But
I'm reinstalling Sekiro now.
Beautiful. It's so good, dude.
Started it. It says it's only 12 gigabytes.
Huh?
Yeah,
Am I wrong on that? I'm looking at it now. It's 12.67 gigabytes on the Xbox.
Oh,
yeah. I don't think it's like a
not bad.
huge game.
It's interesting.
The PC version's nice because you can do a mod to unlock the frame rate, which is nice. And there's one that will let you auto pick up like money since you have to hold B or circle.
Oh, right.
And super annoying. So playing on PC is nice. You might be able to do that on Steam Deck, but I'm too lazy to figure that out. So I'm just playing on Steam Deck, and it's been nice. I regret I should have done it at the time, but I was like, man, I should do a run of this game on Google Stadia when it came out, as a true test. But now it's shut down. I'm like, man, I should have done that.
Damn, that would have been a good idea. All right, boys, that's it for this episode. John, thank you so much for joining us, taking time out of your day to hop on. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime, dude. And Dustin, thank you, of course, being on. Love having you on, my boy.
Yeah,
chatting.
Yeah, this was great. When I talked to John at Too Many Games, we were talking about collaborating, and I was like, maybe we'll see. Maybe after the baby, we'll figure something out. But then this time slot opened up. John was able, so I was glad we were able to make something happen quick. Because a lot of crossover audience, and you and Ryan. And I was like, man, after I talked to you guys, I'm like, those are nice dudes. I like those guys. So happy to have you in our ecosphere, whatever. Is that a word? In our circles, and that we know each other now. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Cool. All right, boys, let's get the hell out of here. We will see you all next week. Take care, everybody. Goodbye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.